video is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. And when you use my code right now, HMA, they'll put $50 in your account when you put a $5 lineup down. Hard to beat that. They've got baseball, basketball, heck, they've even got the seasonal picks up here for the NFL season. Terms and conditions do apply. Please do remember to gamble responsibly. Hello and welcome to the Hawks Nest stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I do thank you for tuning on in here today as we motor our way through this off season. We're almost through May. Then it's just June, which is complete darkness, and then we're to July and training camp on the horizon. It's almost here. It's almost here. We get a chance to see if our Seahawks can replicate what was one of the most magical seasons of their history. And there's so many interesting stories from this team and so many different angles to discuss and look at and turn over. And really, mostly, it's always on purely the good side of things as much as anything else. Part of being a Super Bowl champ is that it's all, sunshine and roses and everything's wonderful, and pop another bottle of champagne. But there are things within the team that you can always take a look at that you're trying to improve. We're chasing edges here after all, are we not? So even though you might have gotten to that place, is there ways that you can get better at certain positions? Is there ways that you can get the team collectively even just a little bit better? It's hard to be better than a champion, but can you push it just even a little bit more forward? And so when you look at that, one of the real prime places that people start to target in on this football team is the right guard position. It is the one position that has been a bit problematic recently beyond even last year. It is one that causes quite a lot of consternation, as it is by far probably the most talked about position on this offensive line. I mean, Charles Cross is rounded in a really good player, and Abraham Lucas the same. And a lot of people were speaking about Zabel too last year. But I think if you went out there and looked for who was the offensive lineman with the Seahawks that are getting the most mentions, it's probably more Bradford than it is of any other lineman. And so he is a bit of I think he gets to be a little bit of a whipping boy on this to a degree, because, and we're going to dive into this a little bit with his tape and how we discuss this a bit, but it is one that I think where the narrative oftentimes, as we say, gets set in on a player or a situation, and it isn't always completely 100% of the case or the truth. I think there is definitely a lot of truth to the fact that the Seattle Seahawks could improve the right guard position. They can certainly see a Bo Stevens come in here, or even a Christian Haynes finally taking that step forward to be able to overtake what Bradford has kind of set as a baseline of play. Yeah, because that baseline of play has not necessarily been significantly great. But let's go through this a little bit and kind of unpack him fully as a player, not just lean on the narrative itself, but try to go beyond the narrative while understanding why there is also truth within that narrative, that this isn't something that's just being invented by fans and that they're just being mean to our guy. There's some legitimate reasons as to, why this is brought up in the way that it is brought up. Now, it starts with Bradford. Before we begin with anything here, we got to understanding where he is as a player right now in this upcoming NFL season. And this, we've got to kind of toss him out. We know what he is. He's done. There's no hope that he's going to improve upon anything else. We've learned what we need to learn about this guy. Move him along the board. And that's why I want to show a little bit about this before we get to where he's at now, of the pathway and approach that he's gotten here. Because he came to the NFL as a very young football player. And he came to the NFL, 4th round pick by the Seattle Seahawks, as a very relatively high athletic guy. This is the relative athletic score that you see posted up for a lot of guys, where it takes in the weight, the height, vertical, broad, bench, 40, right? 10-yard split even, 20-yard split. All of these things are included on this. A 10-yard split at 324 pounds, our guy got 166 as his 10-yard split at 330 pounds. Sorry. That is pretty phenomenal 10-yard split for a guy at that size. I can show you receivers in this last draft class that were clipping a little bit above 161 or whatever, 162 even, on their 10-yard split, who weighed easily 140 pounds less than him. So when you see the 9.81 out of the 10 score here, and you go and you look at all that green here that he's got from the 34 reps that he posted up on the bench, and he did so, by the way, with, what do you have, 34-inch long arms or something like that, arm length, 33.5-inch long arms on top of it. Long arms are harder to be able to get the bench ripped off. And so it wasn't perfect. 3-cone shuttle, we can see with him on that. That's one of the good, not great, but as much as that he was just elite, as much as he had a real big deficiency in how he was tested. And he was a guy that hadn't started a lot of football games coming out. So when he came out to Seattle, he had a guy that had started a few games in the SEC at a very young age. The tape was all over the place, where you'd have the good snap and the bad snap, kind of a lot of what we're already, sort of getting from him at times in total of play, that's for sure. But what you were seeing there was a lot of upside to the game and what he could bring. If you could just round out a little bit of the rough edges there. And the rough edges were understandable why they were. As I often say with this, if you have a guy that started 4 straight years and there's still rough edges, okay, you can be hard on that guy. If he's a finished product, if he's 25 years old, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of room for that guy to improve or get better. But if the guy comes in at more of the 21, 22 years of age, or even 20 and a half, as some of these guys sometimes can, well, then that's a little bit of a different territory and story. And you give those guys a little bit more time, especially if they've got that physical potential, like I just showed you with his relative athletic score, that you can't teach. That he's a big, strong bear of a man out there. And it's hard to find these kind of dudes that are built this way that can move like he can move. I'm not saying he's super quick. And there's certainly times on tape where the athleticism doesn't always show up in full, but it is there. And there are times where it does show up as well on the other side, as we're going to get to see with the tape today. When you look at last year and where he was at as far as his PFF rank, as far as guards go in the NFL, Bradford was your 71st rated guard. So if you have 2 starting guards in the league, that's 64 guards that are starting in the NFL. He didn't even crack into the top 64 as far as his rating goes, sitting in there at 48.9. Just above him, Jared Wilson was starting left guard. We saw what happened with him and Riley Mills in the Super Bowl. You got John Brennan, Trevor Penning. Not a lot of notable names here that are, great players necessarily that he's in the company of. Jonas Avenia down there at the bottom at 28.4. Some Seahawks fans wanted to see the Seahawks take him last year. As we can see, that wouldn't have necessarily been a great answer. Mekhi Becton as well. I think he got released by the Chargers, 37.1. Another guy a lot of people last year were looking at as a guy we should sign in free agency to replace Bradford. And as we can see, John looking pretty smart on that one, is that wasn't a scheme fit and wasn't going to necessarily give you an improvement beyond what you were already getting there from the position there. When we dive a little bit deeper into these numbers and try to unpack this a little bit further with Bradford, let's take a look at where he's been at first from a career standpoint. And this is general tones just with PFF, not meant to be an end-all be-all, but meant to give us a snapshot that, like I say, we'll always kind of then bend together with the film study on this to try to get the full story of what we're seeing between both two kind of camps of things, both the film and kind of some of these, graded numbers that sit here. And as you can see, from 23 to 24, Bradford's had a significant amount of snaps, 659, 578, and then he got up to 1,200 snaps last year. So he basically ran twice the amount last year collectively. This does include some of his postseason play along with his regular season. If we first just kind of concentrate on the regular season side of it, you can see that his grade has been pretty similar in the same place throughout the first 3 years of his career. So on the surface of this, I think this would tell you that, well, this is for those people that say that there's nothing further to be had from Bradford, that the die is cast, and that he's not going to now suddenly become something more than what he's been. These grades absolutely show that. I think that this is where the grade shouldn't always be taken as the end-all be-all, and why the eye test at the times has got to have a weight to it as well. And that when you see on the eye test, there is improvement. And I'm seeing a better brand to play as we went along through the course of the year, that he seemed to take to the system a little bit better. After all, just take a look at some of the pass blocking grades here. When you notice up here at the top, early on in the season, 29.3, 8.9, yikes, 32.1. They had him with a 0 pass block. I don't know how you do this. 0 pass blocking grade against Tampa Bay. You got the Houston game there, where it's 15.2. But then as we start to get a little bit further down on this list, you can see there aren't any real red ones. He did have a couple of them in the playoffs, so I ain't going to lie to you there. But there was a couple of really good, solid games down the line where he started to really up the ante on these grades and seemingly started to get a little bit better as the season wore along. And can't forget, this was his first year in this outside zone system and kind of what was required from it. But just from the standpoint of, improving as a player, getting a little bit better, it maybe wasn't a big jump or a huge, far-flung step forward as much as we would like. I think that there are some things, though, that you see that you do I think appreciate, as far as there are some mild improvements here. And there's even a reason to think that he comes through an offseason like this, knowing what's at stake, knowing the kind of money that he can make by having a solid final year here. Because if he comes out and he can raise himself up from a top 77 guy to more of a playing like a top even 33 guy, he's going to make himself a lot of money. And there are a lot of really good dominating snaps that you get from him on tape as well, that teams can kind of sell themselves as far as being an improvement for him, even if you've got some of the, as I call it, kind of the nightmare snaps that also do jump up. Now, he had 3 sacks last year versus the 7 sacks the prior year. I think that shows some of the improvement that we saw there, especially considering, again, double the snaps for those sacks that he did give up. He had the same number of hurries as he had the prior year, again, going now more than double the amount of snaps that he had the prior season. The hits went up a little bit, but overall, seemingly, you can see the improvement there on the pass blocking stuff. And then as I showed on the top here a little bit, you can see with some of the earlier grades there on the run blocking is that stuff got just a little bit better there as the season went along. Again, not meant to be an end-all be-all with this by any measure. But this is a guy that did improve under Ben in his first year, and this is a guy that it did give you some good, solid play at times through the year. And part of what I went back to and doing the film study on this guy was just that, he's so big and so long, and there are the bad snaps. And I think that the bad snaps do just really register in people's mind, and that when they see them, it gets stuck. They can't unstick what they've seen. They're as bad as snaps as you'll just about see for any player. I'm not overstating this. They are as bad as you will see just about for any player out there when you get the nightmare reps. So, what does a nightmare rep look like, Brandon? Show me one of those. Well, get ready to either avert your eyes or get ready to watch this, because there's some bad ones on there. There's some ones where it gets very hard to understand what he's doing or what the plan of approach was and what took him to have what happens here. Here you got against the Houston Texans. Completely just gets over his skis, as they like to say. And the weird thing with him is that he'll sometimes not just miss his block, but he ends up, there's friendly fire that you get on top of it, where it's like, it's one thing just to whip on your rep here as he does off 98, but then he just completely runs into two guys, takes two out for one here. Look at as he runs into two guys. What are you doing, buddy? Like he's holding back Sundell here. See, Sundell first bails his ass out by actually getting his hands on 98 because you whiffed completely off the rip. Then you get in front of Sundell. Then you end up running into Zach Charbonnet and forcing him to get tackled. So, look, people see this kind of rep, and understandably so. They're like, this is the worst play of guard I've ever seen in my life. It cannot get worse than this. This is absolutely the bottom of the barrel, scraping the bottom of the barrel kind of play. He prevented my guy from blocking and tackling at the same time. How does he even do that? He couldn't have done this if he tried to plan this out, by the way. I'm going to first mess my block up, get in the way of Jalen, and then I'm going to tackle Zach Charbonnet. Whew, he's got some rough ones, and it'd be great if he could clean them up. But they don't go like this snap after snap after snap after snap. It is just something that does stand in people's mind because it's kind of the nature of the beast in football, and it stuff tends to stick in your mind pretty heartily. And he can overshoot it sometimes. When he overshoots, he just doesn't have the good recovery ability. Gray Zabel's got great recovery ability if he misses early on. Doesn't tend to miss early on with his hands, but if he does, he can recover really well with his feet. And Bradford just can't, partly just being so big. And you get a little bit here again, we're just overextending out there, the right guard on that side. See how he gets up over us? See how his balance completely off? He doesn't have a lot of bend to him naturally, right? So he kind of overcomes that by trying to shoot out too hard. And that just completely makes him lose the block. And then Darnold almost has a safety here. Sundell again tries to clean it up. So it's the horrific block. You see this on primetime television go down and you're like, we got to do better than Bradford. We've got to do better than this. This can't be by far the best we can go with. There's got to be something that's a moderate improvement over the top of that. Again, this is another one of those reps where you just shake your head and you're just going, buddy. So not only do you miss your block, but then you knock Abraham Lucas down. Watch it again here, 75. Just runs right into Lucas. They both end up on their hands and knees, and poor Kenneth Walker never had a chance. Tough rep. And maybe some of this is on Lucas. Hard to say. They're supposed to, I think, they're moving in kind of two different directions here. So somebody didn't get the memo, I think. It's like two wide receivers running the route in the same place on the field. I think a little bit of that's going on here. But again, you see this on your TV and you're like, Bradford, can you just once get your head out of your ass? It's understandable. Again, you don't get a lot of guards that necessarily have these kind of bad reps, even if they're just kind of sprinkled in all over the tape a little bit. And they are a little bit at times all over the tape. Here, don't ask Bradford to pull back across the formation. There's no chance he can get that done. And you see here, just watch. I've often talked about one of the things that makes Abraham Lucas so good at what he does is he's got an elasticity, a rubber band like snap out of his stance, where watch between, and obviously Lucas is a tackle, Bradford's a guard, and Bradford's got about probably 20 pounds on him. But look at how far Abraham Lucas has come, 72, and look where Bradford's at, knowing Bradford's supposed to pull back across the formation here. And it's that little slowness out of your snap, even though he's athletic, just kind of slow out of his snap. So this looks like, well, he just can't move to the spot and get there. No, it's that he's not getting out of his snap quick enough. It's also one of the things that makes Lucas so good at what he does at the right tackle position. And it's beyond his testing scores. He's got something you can't test, which is that ability to be the fastest guy off the line of scrimmage on the snap. He's just got a great way of timing it, and he just gets out of his stance so quickly into the right position. And then Bradford just completely barrels this one up a bit. Not in a good way. So nightmare snaps, it is a problem here for him. There's some good stuff in here too, but these are the things that you guys get that you're seeing on play in and play out that you're going, we got to do better than this. But there's some good stuff in here too. So let's not just dwell on all the bad stuff here. If I can find my notes. Some good pass pro. I think too, the thing that makes it so hard about the evaluation with him a little bit as a player is that when you do get the good reps, and this would be the thing that would make it hard for me as a coach, is that when I do get the good reps, I can get some supremely dominant reps. So it's like the weird thing you get with him on this heaven and hell thing where there is the steady play that'll be in there too, but you will also get both of these two sides of extremes where you'll get some supremely, absolutely, he just pancaked the hell out of that guy kind of rep, and then you'll get the whiff rep right after it. It's like you'll get both parts, and you might get it on just one drive multiple times over in both directions. Here, finish on Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk has got a couple times where he gives him the business on a few of these reps here. Now he's first, just that a little bit of that nastiness to him, a little bit of the power though that you get, the 33 reps that he did on the bench. Like he's a big, strong, long guy. Still gets picked off here, but that's not Bradford's fault on this one. He lays a nice little block here on Fisk, who ends up on his back. How about here again? Right guard, matched up one-on-one, no double team help. You got to have Sam drop back here. Nice deep rep here. Got to sit back on a little hitch. So you need time in the pocket for this to set up. Look at how little bit of movement that guy gets there. Understanding this is a pretty long drop back. This is kind of close to almost not quite 7 steps. It's a 5-step drop. It's like a 5-step with a hitch, which the guys got to hold on a little bit longer on their blocks, completely clean up front one-on-one, hands in a great spot, good dominant rep, finishes when he tries to leap to knock the ball down, punish the leapers, as they like to say. Play action pass, Sam going to let rip through one of his better dime balls of the year here. Look at this beautiful thing, just dropping in pillowy soft to Jackson Smith. Again, Bradford right in front. Look at how well Bradford clears his guy through here and gives Sam look at that hole there. It's like look at the view Sam gets here to see this thing down to Jackson. So he's got a nice, beautiful, but why does he have that? Because look at where Bradford's taken his man. All the way out there, no threat to the quarterback whatsoever. And Sam with some good arm strength there where he's barely able to just kind of step into that. And again, got you guys see this one more time up over the top. Just look at that thing. Look at that thing. It don't get better than that right there. But a good rep, great rep, even I would say from Bradford here, to where he can move these big men off the line of scrimmage and move them with ease at times when he can land it right. That's the key though, of course, right? He's got to be able to land it right. Here again, a bit of that nastiness. Ability to knock that guy off his feet. He's got a punch to him. These kind of reps are the stuff that's going to get a guy like Benton excited as an offensive line coach. He's going to see that you knocking that guy on his ass. That's what I'm talking about. If I can just tap into that spirit. And this is the thing that for those of you that go, why is this guy still out there? Why has he guy still been out there with these bad reps? Because these great reps are out there too. And as an offensive line coach, I'd be in the same position of going, I got to find a way to get him to lean into these reps. I've got to find a way to replicate these reps and get the more of this and less of the other. And that's on me as a coach. That would feel like it's on me as a coach as much as anything else. But he's got some really nice reps here. Again, come back through, punish. Another guy knocked off his feet here. Yeah, he's helping, but see how the help comes with some nastiness? Off his feet, complete the ball over the top to Jackson Smith down the field. A lot of times with these great blocks you're going to see on some of this tape I'm going to show you are then coming on the back of Seattle springing a big play from it. So a little bit of help in pass pro. You get some issues with him, which I'll show you here in a second too. But you get some good reps here. Again, like I said earlier, a lot of these are going to show big plays happening with him doing his job, locking it in here. Yeah, you're giving up a little. You're going to give up a little bit with the bull rush, but he's not getting walked back. Sam's still got plenty of pocket there to be able to throw that ball. And this is a nice, again, deeper drop side here. Drop, hitch, then let it go. So you need a little bit of time for that to hold up for you to be able to get this throw off. And he does so. Beautiful route. Unbelievable release there by Torrey Horton off the line of scrimmage. Can't see it on this, but just nasty inside release by Horton. But a great block there by Bradford and almost just effortless. See, hands inside, not wide. Look at it. He's got one hand on him, controlling him. It's kind of that bear strength that he has. He can do that with when it goes right like that. No real threat on the play there. Here's one of those instances where you actually get a little recovery from him. So he gets the initial win, gets the loss, and then a nice recovery. So, whoop. Oh, I'm starting to lose the rep. He's going to get around me. Get my feet back, reset this up. Not a bad little rep there. He doesn't have a lot of the recovery stuff. That's why I wanted to feature that one just a little bit, as the recovery can sometimes be a little wonk. Love this rep too from him. Another knockdown rep, pure and simple. A little bit of a trip here. A little bit of the Abraham Lucas getting that. Look at Lucas a little crafty there. Let's stick that foot out there. A little foot out there. But the man ends up on the ground nonetheless. Another nice rep there. Got a few of these I wanted to go through just to get the full part of it. Again, a good recovery rep here. Initially, 90. Hands on him, gets him wide, look at him, almost gets him doing the splits. This kind of throws Bradford off for a second, stays locked in on it though. Bradford falls down on this, but that's just kind of the awkwardness of the guy falling down, kind of takes him down a little bit there. Still a nice, another little solid block. Like the feet here. Feet look light here, right? This is one of those, they got reps where the feet look heavy and kind of weighed down. Here you get a little bit of lightness to them, where his feet are kind of picking him up, put him down a little bit. Not a bad rep. Bad run blocks in there too. The whiff rate thing, and that's the part that with the run blocks stands out with Bradford, is that you don't just lose your block, you don't just get the lack of the lack of a stalemate. You get the complete whiff factor here, where you lost this block just from the jump. I mean, the guy couldn't have bounced off you almost any faster. You barely got any hands on him. Come back to the heaven and hell of this. Come back to the up and the down of this. On this one, you're going to get two whiffs. He's going to whiff at the line of scrimmage on the help on the double team, and then he's going to whiff on Fred Warner. Whiff on the double team, whiff on Fred Warner. Stand there looking back at the line of scrimmage, this is essentially the Bradford special right here. Back looking confused at the play that just happened. But let's take it through slowly again here. You got a double team here. You got to secure this with Sundell. Sundell's got to climb all the way over there to hit that reach block. You've got to understand what Sundell's doing here, and you've got to close that space down between you and Sundell to pinch that guy. That should be pinched. Instead, he gets a little lazy there and just kind of throws out his shoulder and expects Sundell to have to clear all of that space over there to pick it up. Then he comes out here and completely whiffs on Fred Warner. And the sad part of it is if he actually lays this in right and puts this shoulder into where he pinches this down and lays the double team correct, actually gets a step to his left, then he actually is going to get into the Warner block. See how he kind of ends up stepping right, and that takes him away from the Warner block too? And this is one of those ones where you go, what were you thinking prior to the play about what you were doing here? You have a double team, which should be pretty easy to accomplish that. You may not get down to Warner, but you should, with a double team, be able to pinch this down. Just sometimes has those reps where you can't get it done and you get the bad whiffs. And there's another one of those reps where you're going to get a fan just completely losing their mind when they see these kind of things because they go, I don't get it. I don't get it. Friendly fire is a real thing with him, man. Another one here in Pass Pro where he's like, Abraham, you're not blocking Derek Brown good enough. You're not blocking him good enough. Just get off of him. I got it. Abraham, just get off of him. I got it. Watch on the right-hand side of your screen. Bye, Abraham. I got this. He pushes Abraham Lucas off. Oh, this rep's awesome. It's another one of those ones where you go, buddy, what were we thinking? Like he literally just puts his hands on Lucas and says, bye. At least he picks up Brown, At least he doesn't just sort of give up at that phase like, oops, but he does then just pick up the block readily made after that point and picks up on Derek Brown. But there you go with Anthony, man. I don't deny you guys that get frustrated with these kind of reps you see. Like, it's one thing you can't block your own. You're throwing your own men around. Oh, gosh. Let's get a couple of good run blocks here on this to finish this down because there are some good reps here from him. In addition, 93, wash him out down the line of scrimmage here. Hands inside. See, look at the hands inside, still generating force and power here and getting movement out of the hole. Yeah, I understand. DeMario Davis gets in here. That's not on him. You can see Sundell's supposed to have, I think Sundell kind of picked up the wrong guy. He had a choice between two here, 56 or 20. Sundell gets down onto 20 instead, which just leaves 56 in the hole. But that's not Bradford's fault here. He does a really great job here of just taking that defensive tackle and washing him out of the lane. Another one like we've seen. Man can take guys and put them off their feet. Look at this whole offensive line. Nobody's knocking their guy off their feet on this play. And here you got him on one-on-one, just throws him down. That effortless sort of kind of power that you get from him on some of these reps. That's the tantalizing aspect to a guy like Benton or to the offensive coordinator. Why, in my opinion, he's going to probably likely keep his starting job this year. Is because if he can settle down the bad snaps, you're going to get these great snaps in there too, where he will wow you. And you go, whoa, the power is legit. Another play where he decides he's going to dump Braden Fisk here. Lock on. Braden's moving down the line. Throw Braden down to the ground. A little friendly fire into Saubert. Just tosses his man down. It's one of the reasons why when Fisk is out there, you just got to go run this kind of play and attack his side constantly over and over again because it's the bad part of his game for sure. Little double team here. This is going to be on Puna Ford, who's really the run stuffing defensive tackle for the Rams. That's the guy out there really to stop this kind of plays as a centerpiece. Gets a nice double team here with Sundell. And look at the movement you get on Puna down the field there. Not easy to do on a guy like Puna. He is a very hard man to move in there, even on the double teams. And you can see the double team doesn't last a long time. Sundell kind of gets lost peeling down to trying to get on Landman. But 75 takes him all the way up on there. Get the good reps from him too, man. Another one where he's clearing the guy out of the hole here for a nice big run by Walker. Takes the defensive tackle, clears him out. Clears him out of the hole. See, the guy's he's kind of trying to shoot the gap anyway a little bit here. Certainly not too gapping. But Bradford takes advantage of that and just rolls him out of the play. Very well done. Nice job by Oots there just to get enough there on J.J. Watt too. Dominant reps you'll get in there with him. You know what I mean? Like you will get some of these reps. Big run from Walker, touchdown, 50-yarder, right? Where do they go? Where do they go for this 50-yarder? Well, comes right back, cuts it back down the side where Bradford opened a hole for him. So watch Bradford. Out of line here. Play's supposed to initially, I think, go strong side here a little bit and then weave back around. So I think it's supposed to set up to make it look like they're going to run left but come back right. But then look at the job Bradford does. Gets a great block in their hands. Just beautiful. Nice leverage. Controlling the block through. The guy gets off the block, but not before Walker's past him and not before he's lost. He's pushed him down the field here, right? Even a yard or two, you've pushed him down the field and then gotten him out of the hole at the same time. So both gotten push and then created a hole for Walker at the same time. And then Walker houses it. Super Bowl, where it's similar play to what I just showed you. Again, where Walker's got a little bit of a choice here coming off. Feel this a little bit, where you want to run. Okay. A little bit of patience, but look at the guy getting push here. He's got the second level, gets on the second level, climbs it, eliminates the linebacker, and again, Walker's gone. There are times, even with some of the stuff, I think moving laterally post-snap back across the formation on the kind of the wham blocks, I don't think he's good with that stuff, but there is some stuff where you can get him on second level at times, and he can actually get down to it and lay some good blocks. Again here, free run. I think that's probably the key is you just can't have him do 2 for 1. You can't say lay the double team and then get down to the next block. You kind of have to tell him you got a free run down to the second level or you're going to just stay on the double team and then that's going to be Sundle's job to get to the second level. But here, just tosses the guy. He's got some nastiness to him. Just throws the guy into another guy. I think throws him into another Jaguar there. Just chucking him. Grabs the linebacker. Says, see you, sucker. It's not all bad, man. Yeah, we'll look at some of the, you look at some of the good and some of the bad with this, but there's plenty of good littered in with some of these snaps, and it doesn't tell the whole story of him if you just say this guy's just a bad guy or just a guy that hasn't shown any kind of improvement. I do have confidence that this is going to be your starter moving into next year over Bo Stevens. I think that Stevens has a lot of familiarity with the outside zone system and that's going to allow him in inroads to hit the ground running. I think as well, though, with Bradford, you have a guy that has really, even if just mildly has improved, and that for the snaps that are there that are going to frustrate you and drive you a little bit crazy, there's going to also be the snaps there that are going to be dominant at times too. And that when you get those big runs broken, a lot of people talk to me about Jadarian Price and bringing him in, and you got to replace the 52 runs of 10 yards or more from Kenneth Walker last year. And who's the guy to be doing that? This would be your guy. And a big part of a lot of those runs you can find with Walker going over his side when that happened, and that those big runs are happening as much because you've gotten the dominant rep from Bradford. You've gotten that, as I showed on a couple of those, both the clearance downfield with some of the push, and then the completely pushing you out of the hole. So there's this nice wide hole for the running back to go through. And that's a lot of how big plays are born. It's not where the running back's got to have to deal with something in the hole as far as a glancing tackle or an arm on him, but he's able to get up to full speed and hit the ground running once he gets into the second level. And so the story with him is not an easy one to just simply pull back on and say that this guy's trash or bad, or that he's just the worst guard in the league. This really isn't the case. Is he one of the better ones? No, he isn't. But he's a guy with a lot to prove this year as far as he can earn himself a lot of money if he can continue to steady down his play now another year into this system. And I think with Seattle, there's going to be a little bit of that for those out there that think Bo Stevens is the guy that's going to be running here. I think there is a little bit of the you've been a good soldier for us thing going on here. Because I think last year when it came down to a Tayakata and Kobe Bryant, I think there are some cases that could be made from the coaching staff at times and saying, hey, I think there's some arguments to be made here. But Ikata is maybe a slightly better player than Bryant. Not hugely better, not just way above better, but maybe this guy is a little bit better. But then in Bryant, you have the guy that likewise was the good soldier and bounced through different positions and had put in the hard work and done everything he could to make himself be the best player he could be. I think there's going to be a little bit of that play here with Bradford here where it won't be just as cold-blooded a decision as like, well, we're going to just run with this guy. I think you like having the depth there with Bo Stevens to fill in if something does happen with Bradford. But I also think Bradford's going to come into shape, into camp really good. I think he's going to take into the system another year really well. And I feel like in this system, it's going to help him the more he can understand this, how to eliminate the whiff blocks. Because a lot of this system allows for you that rather than launching off the line of scrimmage and attacking and having to always just drive this guy off the line of scrimmage, sometimes it is about you landing a block at a certain angle, at a certain timing. And that if you can just have that makes it an easier block to lay versus the one where I just got to whip my man's butt in front of me and win that block just wholeheartedly, which a lot of systems will require snap after snap after snap. So I think there's a little bit of that for him to maybe take advantage of and be able to improve. I don't ever think he's going to be a top end guard in this sport. I don't think he's going to be a guy that Seattle's ever going to pay a contract to as far as an extension goes. But I do think he's going to be your starter into 2026. And I do think there's a good chance that he's even able to improve even a little bit more as a player. Not to say that it was purely bad last year either. And that this narrative that sits out there and that he's kind of that whipping boy at times, and that there's all those Twitter videos out there of him and people going, "What are you doing, man?" And it's been pushed very hard, and not wrongly so. There's validity to it, but there's also the good side of this too, which we hopefully showed off a little bit today, and that he's bringing some good stuff in there as well, and some dominant reps, not simply where he's getting the job done, he's getting a plus grade there, but he's getting you 100%.
He took us in the house and served us pancakes.
Pancakes, baby. That's what he's bringing you. All right, let's see what you guys think. Do you think Bo Stevens is starting next year? Do you think Christian Haynes might finally step forward? One of the better parts would be is if one of those two guys could, that you would have an ability to then move Bradford, because I do think you would have a little bit of trade value, not major trade value, but could you get the 5th, 6th, 7th round kind of pick for him? Maybe so. And then that does save you the money on the cap if it does go that direction. I don't think it goes that direction, but it's nice to have options from a Seahawks franchise standpoint. You guys let me know, though. Who do you think is going to be starter here day one here for the Seahawks coming into the 2026 season? I appreciate you guys watching today. We'll probably be a little bit of an in and out on this show today. I know it's a holiday weekend and people are out doing their thing, and this is right about the time where things start to deaden out. So probably over the next, you guys see over the next about month. So when we're going to be doing shows, when we do shows, I don't know if we'll go super long. I say that is right now I'll probably end up going 4 hours today, but probably won't go super long as I just know there isn't as much going on right now at the moment. So I'm also hard at work on the Kubiak series, so I know a lot of people ask me about that, and I'm working right now on getting those cooked out to you guys every day, making a little bit of progress on that. Hoping to just get them both filmed back-to-back, all edited up, and then I can kind of release them maybe like back-to-back days or something when we go going live on that. Please do hit that like button if you guys get a chance for me today. I would really, 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 really appreciate it. I also want to thank, if I can, the sponsor of the show, and that's going to be Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports app in the game. They've got so many options, so many different selections you can go through. Right now, you got basketball playoffs full spin. You got baseball going. You want to get in some fantasy, some daily, some weekly fantasies. Whichever you want to go, you want to put a ticket together with both because you got a couple of prize picks that you like on there that you want to go after. You can do so today and use my code HMA. When you use my code and do a $5 lineup, they will put a $50 into your account. $5 lineup, $50 into your account right now. We currently have the seasonal picks going on here. I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba over 1,324 yards paired up with a Jacoby Myers ticket here for the seasonal picks. That means over 1,325 yards for the season for Jackson next year. And then Jacoby, I've got over 750 because I think he's going to be the #1 option out there for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. I've also got one right now with Jadarian Price where it's 725 on the rushing yards for him next year. I think that's an easy over to take as well. Please utilize Prize Picks today. Use my code. Take advantage. Go out there. Earn some money. Think you know sports. Put that knowledge to the test. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. And yes, I do get some questions about use in the state of Washington itself, as you can use the app in most states. But in Washington, it's still a little bit limited. You got to be on a casino's network to use the app in full. So if you're on any casino, which we got a lot of those in Western Washington, then you can use the app in full, use the code, and go out there, win yourself some money. Thank you to Prize Picks. Randall McDaniel in the house. Thank you for that, Randall. It's good to see you, brother. Appreciate the $5 donation. Randy probably in the minority, but I like Bradford. Young, we drafted him, keeps improving, and he's nasty. I said before, 2025, we'd extend him, and I still would. Ooh, we got Randall as one of the rare folks out there that are pro Bradford. Don't get a lot of those, Randall, but not to say that you're not right about him. That I think he has him steadily improved, and I think that there would have been a chance on this, Randall, if you didn't have such a good offensive line and such kind of a plan in place. I think for how you're going to have to spend this money going forward, because you got the Cross and Lucas deals done, the Zabel deal gets done. Does John look at it from his perspective that that he, and this is a guess, obviously, Randall, but I kind of wonder if John doesn't think about it as that I'll keep the center and right guard position in a relatively modest place as far as what we're spending, And then we'll be willing to spend the big money on the left and the tackles, the left guard and the tackles. It's a guess, but there is always that load balance thing I wonder about, in that, you can't tend to take a position like that and pay all 5 guys. You could, but you're then going to have to pay the price somewhere else. And John hasn't historically seemingly wanted to do that. And he has shown historically a willingness to try to find places online where he can sometimes go a little bit cheaper. Not necessarily, pennies, but just a little bit cheaper. And I do think with Bradford, he goes out there and has a year where he's even, moderately more better than what he was last year even. And then that guy's going to probably go out there and make, 10 million on the market, a 3-year, $10 million deal, or a 3-year, $11 million deal. I think he'll probably be in line for something like that. Randall, yeah, you're on it with it, man. Thank you for another donation. Think something like 3 years, 22, maybe more on the open market. Yeah, I would say that I think that it's probably like a 330 is kind of your minimum, with the chance that the price could raise up even more beyond that. And that's where I think it gets a little uncomfortable for John at that point, because, okay, I'm now paying him $10 million a year. And I've got the Zabel contract coming next year. And some of what you're going to have to do here, and this impacted the Walker situation and Bryant situations too, is that, you're going to have to make your choice on certain guys that you let go in order that you can accommodate and afford all of the rest of the other dudes. And when you have, you're hearing reports right now, Randall, for instance, with the negotiations between Devin Witherspoon and the team, and that they haven't necessarily moved along fluidly. Well, you're going to probably need every last ducat you can to get all these contract extensions done. And there is going to be kind of a significant amount of extensions here coming up on the horizon, which is probably a big explanation for why Seattle's been kind of maintaining this cap space and not doing a lot with it, Randall. Trying to look, I've got a list here of guys, but Ernest Jones, Leonard Williams, you got the, obviously got to get the Witherspoon deal done. Shoot, I had these. So you get yourself notes and then you can't find your notes of these things. So I had these all there we go. So we got Byron Murphy would be like a 4-year, $27 million a year deal. AJ Barner's going to be like 4 years at $13 million a year. Derek Halls, if you're going to sign him, will be 4 years, probably 24 by that point. Got the Ernest Jones, the Jason Myers, the Leonard Williams extension on top of that. So I think that's where, in making, this is a guess, Randall, doesn't mean they couldn't do this, but it is a guess to say that he probably ends up proving to be a little bit too expensive for them versus trying to say, hey, we'll just put in a Bo Stevens there for the next 2 years after this. We'll be cheaper there. We'll then look at the Sundell situation and what he's wanting. And if we got to go cheaper there, we'll draft a guy maybe there to go cheaper there if we have to, if he's going to, be too expensive for us too. But I think the team would be smart to try to take some of these guys and understand, you can't pay everybody. And then on those guys that are going to be really highly paid, that do have some things in their game, there's going to be a little bit, some not liabilities, but deficiencies, that you just go, that's not what we're going to do. We're paying for the guy. We want the full meal deal. Paying for a guy. We want the Cross. We want the Lucas. We want the Zabel on the offensive line. We don't want to take the half measure approach a little bit there. Industry Worth in the house. Thank you for the $2 donation. Kubiak, I want to see Seahawks music video too. An accompanying music video to the Kubiak series. That'd be pretty funny. Kubiak be playing all the instruments. We have Mike on drums. I like it. It's a good idea. Good to see you in the house industry. Hope you're doing well. Banker Alfreys, thank you for the $2 donation. A little jokester dono. Hawks should trade Bradford for Jawan Taylor. Now, we're good on right tackles. At least with Bradford, I know he doesn't jumpstart, He only had 4 penalties last year, so at least he doesn't false start every single play, which would drive me crazy if I was watching that as a fan. Like, my guy's jump starting every time. But I guess, considering he didn't have the best years, he was probably having to do it for a reason. So, no, I think we'll keep our right guard. We're set at tackle, Banker. We're too deep on both sides, so we're straight over there, man. Good seeing the house, dude, though, brother. Hope you're doing well, Jawan Taylor. And if we got any questions today, obviously, B. Brandon, Hawks Nest. If you got something you want me to directly respond to, please just post it on in the chat. Like I said, we might not go super long today. We'll see where you guys are at. Horton be great, Zippy, if we can get him to stay healthy, man. He's got a lot of upside. If he gets his hands on you, problem is getting his hands on you. Sometimes there's that whiff factor. I agree, Nicholas. I think some of the mental part is a big part of it there with Anthony, and just that's the part I get a little encouraged with on the repping out. I ain't saying he's part of the long-term answer here, but for next year that we get a little bit of mild improvement from what he's been in that contract year. And I think that there's those little parts of his game that can be kind of cleaned up, that are correctable, that are fixable, albeit they can sometimes take some time. Snaps are like average, okay reps and the bad ones. He's got some dominant ones in there too, but the bad ones are bad, that's for sure. Donnie, how you doing? Everyone's well, despite passing of Tom Kane and Kyle Rowdy Bush and the permanent close down of CBS News Radio. It's been some passings lately. It's been tough, man. I bet Ben said, will that effing happen on that play? Dick, this is the dude has great size and strength. What amazes me, there's no one else on the team that can win that spot away from him. Yikes. Yeah, I think that's been part of this slow build process of the line for the last 3.5 years, 4 years is, you had to start from scratch. And that meant the Cross, the Lucas thing had to happen. The Zabel, getting a center, getting the right guard situation. And, John's really addressed it, but it has taken time and it still has not been fully, washed over. It's hard to do in the NFL, I'd say too. I think most NFL teams, you're going to have kind of a Bradford-like guy somewhere on the line somewhere. But yeah, it's been tough finding a ready-made replacement. I will say Bo Stevens is going to push him as hard as anybody that's come in here. And I was off on Haynes. I mean, that's been definitely a surprise because Haynes was supposed to be ready to go and hit the ground running, being a guy that started multiple years in college and zone fluidity, and it just hasn't worked. But you're right, Addicted. He hasn't exactly gotten pushed. Yeah, Herbicide. Haynes has been really disappointing because there's a lot of intelligence behind making that selection of him. A lot of intelligence behind, that being kind of the right pick. And a lot of reason for its success to be had and him to be picked in the right spot of the draft in the third round where you took him. It hasn't quite worked out. Cave Troll teamed every week in 2024 saying effing Bradford due to a backbreaking penalty. I think I only said that at most twice last year. Yeah, that's kind of that thing where it's like clean some stuff up. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to overstate the case too much and that he's like really, reintroduced himself as a player or, has just done so much to come so far. I think it is mild improvement, but it's mild improvement that has some good things around that and what he brings as a player. It isn't perfect. There's certainly room to find a guy that could be more dominant if you could find it, but some of that comes down to, can you go find that? Is that guy available and there to be had? And, they weren't able to get addressed in the draft, but I don't think that guy will be out there for a trade or anything like that. So it's kind of the best you got is probably here right now for the upcoming year, at least. Yeah, Princess. It's, Prince, sorry, not Princess, Prince Bronco. It's definitely, Haynes is one of those picks that's been a tough one, man. It's hard to call it one of the biggest busts in draft Seahawks history because you've had so many busts that have been, you get to the third round, it's kind of harder to quite get to bust. Not that he hasn't been a supreme disappointment, but I'd go busts are more kind of like, first, maybe second round kind of picks. You're halfway into a third round and, it's going to get a little risky there as far as the potential of those guys doing anything. Yeah, Pooney probably would have been a better pick there, Chris. Instead, retrospect. Brian says just got to be willing to take the good with the awful because there appears to be no middle of the road with this man. It is a lot of that stuff to the two sides. Yeah, you can get a little bit of the both edges to that a bit. Sign Joel Bitonio. Boy, I think he's retiring Oiler, and he's up there. Also a guy that's played left guard his whole career. So I don't know if you want a guy for the first time at 37 years old to transition over to right guard for the first time. If we were going to make a move on lineman, we would have done it. Prince has noticed every time Bradford has a good rep, the defender face him straight up, and Bradford can bull rush. If a defender takes a gap to either side, Bradford's screwed. For the most part, I mean, there's a couple reps there. The Jaguar rep I showed where he was able to clear the guy through the line, where there's some reps on there, but I wouldn't push back and saying that that's not something that isn't a problem part of his game, especially the lunge factor and what he does with that. That's a part that I do think is potentially clean upable, where it's like, okay, you lose some of the lunge factor, but can you maintain more of the balance, sink down your hips, get a little bit more of take this big body I've got at 6'4", 332 and just get in front of the guy at times. And that, that can be a win in itself. And then you kind of learn that with time, maybe, in other prior years as a younger man, you're trying to actually lay the block and get the technique in there. And then you kind of learn with age, well, if I can just get my body in here into the right play and just kind of get in front of him, that will be enough for this rep, especially in this system. But I admit it, that's a little bit of me with some of the hope here of the upcoming year. To watch Bradford 27, I'll switch teams. I don't think he'll be past 26, but I do think you're getting 26. Addicted if Coach McDonald, John Snyder needed a bodyguard, I'd hire Bradford on the spot. Can Benton teach the mental part to him? I just don't think so. Well, I think it's an uphill battle. I do. He's 25 years old, so it's not a guy that, like I said, came in this league as an older prospect who played a lot of football. If there is the one guy that you have some hope that you can give this guy some time for him to get better and better with time, this could be that guy. That is what you see. I think back to a Damian Lewis who was really good at right guard and then got moved halfway in his career to left guard and then had some uphill battles at left guard at times because he looked like a fish out of water, but then kind of settled in there and then got even better when he went to Carolina at left guard after he signed his free agent contract extension. And you wonder that a little bit with these kind of players that fit to this kind of form of it. You don't know if he will be able to round in, and a lot of this is the team having to make this estimation in the background. But I think that, and I even see a little bit in the chat, the stating and simply taking, again, I think the ratings on this, when I look at the film study on this, yeah, there are the bad snaps. And I've looked through this film a variety of times and watched Bradford's tape a variety of times here and looking through this stuff. And I think that he's the worst guard in the league. He's one of the worst guard in the league's narrative that I see posted out there is inaccurate to what I see with my eyes. And that's where simply taking, the rating of, okay, well, he's the 77th rated guard, so he's got to be completely trash at that point. That's to me where it's gets hard to quite get to that place of things. I don't see that on tape from him. I don't see just purely this worst right guard in the league kind of situation. Certainly don't think I see one of the best, but I think he probably creeps up into a little bit of the closer to the average territory than others would like to give him for. We're not calling him average, but just that, again, this was one why I wanted to do the show today is I just feel like at times with this stuff, it gets a little bit, he gets leaned on a little bit with this stuff to where it gets a bit overstated. Mm-hmm. 333 for 30 million for AB is comedy. We'll see, man. I'm pretty good about this stuff as far as predicting these contracts. Gossett, you've been around here long enough on this to know when I tend to bring up these stuff on this contract stuff, I don't tend to be really far off. And when you're talking about in your next post that he'll play for the league minimum, well, we're pretty far off, aren't we, in our assessment about potentially what he could and could not get. If he's a league average play, if playing for the league minimum is what he's going to expect to get after this season, then Seattle wouldn't be paying him $4.5 million this year because he wouldn't be worth that amount of money. You know, we live in an era where Will Freeze got a 5-year, $87.72 million deal last year after only starting like 5 games, Nagasa? Right? We live in a world where Aaron Banks went from the Niners to the Green Bay Packers and got a 4-year, $77 million deal. It isn't to say that necessarily I'm not saying I would pay Bradford 3-year, $30 million, but it is accurate to say that the market will pay that for what is a real desperate position and teams that are very desperate to sign those players to the position. So the value is actually very right. If you go and look at the sports track, contracts and the guards and what they're making, and I'm not talking the best of the best here. I'm talking about guys like an Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks never made a Pro Bowl, or if he was like the 9th alternate. He's been atrocious in Green Bay. Niner fans couldn't wait to get him out of the door. In a lot of ways, he was kind of their equivalent Bradford. A man signed a 4-year, He's making $19.25 million per year on this contract. And so it's funny numbers, Nagasa. I ain't saying that he's worth it with it, but that he will get paid that. Yeah. He's going to make that on the open market if he has if he just repeats what he does last year. He'll make that on the market. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's the proper way. I'm not saying that's what a smart organization should do. But the thing you got to factor into this too, Nagas, is that it's not every organization actually operating out there with intelligence always at the forefront. And desperation draws a lot of situations. Top 10 a year is top 12 guard money. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. There's 24 guards in the NFL that are making $10 million or more right now on average per year. So you said there's 10 million a year is top 12 guard money. That's 10 million a year is top 25 guard money. Dogzilla says, what instrument would Bradford play in a band? Ooh. I kind of want to go tuba. I'm feeling tuba. Kind of hide behind the tuba. It's that or a flute. Z-Town, hey Brandon, will Darnold turn into a pumpkin without the great Kubiak to hold his hand? Yeah, that's kind of some of the thinking out there, isn't it, right now with some of what people are saying with and it's weird. Again, narrative stuff, twist, Kubiak comes here and nobody thinks anything's he's fine, he's okay, whatever, OC, whatever. And then suddenly it's like, well, he's the guy that really drove this offense to what it did, and then he got Darnold where he got. It's like, well, Darnold did the thing he did last year with O'Connell, so I don't know if that's completely true. But you're right. It's something that's being mentioned a lot out there, and how people are presenting this thing with Kubiak's loss. And that's the part to me where people are just sort of scrambling for reasons why we're going to be less than what we were last year, or why we're going to be diminished, or why we aren't going to be even better. And this is one, as I said on the syndicate last week, I think it's been really overstated at a high level, the Kubiak loss, as far as it having some monstrous impact on the offense, and then we're just going to be a shell of ourselves on that side of the ball moving into next year. And it's how it gets kind of talked about a little bit. And you're tongue in cheek in it here a little bit with it, but yeah. Addicted Brandon, great cut ups. Love we want the cross, we want the Zabel, we want the cross comment. 100% spot on. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Prince says Bradford be better off in a gap-based scheme, not ours. Maybe so. Possibly so. Is your worth? Thank you for the $5 donation. Because I think B could come up with some catchy lyrics. I could do a Kubiak video. That'd be definitely what I'd want to use the AI on, though. Just get some prompts in there and tell it to do it. It'd be pretty hilarious, though. an accompanying video, accompanying music video to the series, as one does. Industry worth, as one does. Thanks for the fiver. Grandizer Hawksnest, can you remind people what NFL comp did you have on Bradford going in the draft? Has he surpassed that comp? Apologies if you answered this. Say it. Say it. Go Hawks. Shoot, man. I'd have to think back. I'd have to go back pretty darn far, man, to, what was he, the 23 draft, I think? Oh, I actually got my notes here right now for him. So here's my scouting report on him. Big lumbering right guard, strong and long, wide as a house. He's got heavy hands that can sustain where he can rock anybody. He can drive block anybody. No one is overpowering him in pass protection. Quick twitch and bend might get him, but he doesn't see a lot of that from the right guard position. Better as a run blocker than a pass protector. He's going to lean on that length and power to always get it done. He's a hammer, but not every play you go up against is going to be a nail. He struggles to move in space, and it's not getting any better. He's just so big, he can only move so quickly. His hand punch is strong and accurate and sends defensive linemen back initially off the snap almost every time in the run game. He's going to be a good pro and a solid starter in this league, but I don't think he'd fit in the Seahawks movement-based scheme. So that's a little bit back to Prince's comments a second ago. He needs to be in a scheme that isn't going to ask him to pull and get to the second level, rather just beat up the man across from him. So not bad on the scouting report with that. I think as far as where, he kind of played out to being, I thought he probably would round into a little bit of a solider player than he's quite been able to fully tap into, especially for a guy that's had now 3 years to kind of develop in the system in that way. But I don't know if I can't remember who my comp was for him. Might have been like a kind of Damian Lewis-ish type, but Damian was a little bit more cleaner, technically wise, coming out. I can't quite remember. Because we need to pack a chains and whatever else we can to make some sort of trade deal. I think it's very much a possibility, especially if they do like Cable do as much as they possibly could here. Richmond as well. You got a couple of linemen the team might be very high on, and that might put a couple of guys on this roster a little bit on that bubble. And because this is a desperate position, you got a couple of years ago, what did we get, a 7th round pick for like Nick Martin? You're going to kick him up, but this is what happens, is that it's such a desperate position, the offensive line, that you can usually get some kind of value for a guy if you move him in trade. He's down and just noticed a lot of times Bradford isn't blocking anyone. He does have those reps. Prince, he's too slow and poor balance. That can't be taught. No improvement coming there. Yeah, I think there's parts of his game that are going to be what they always are. And that's where, I don't think he'll ever be a dominant player in this league. But if he can clean up the whiffs, which I think he can, where you can lose the rep, but just don't lose the rep pure. Don't lose the rep from the rip. Make them work a little bit on that rep to get past you. That if he can eliminate some of that, it can take his game a little bit more forward. Okay, first, second, early third rounders, the ones I would consider busts in the draft. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Thank you for reminder, Industry Worth. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe up if you get a chance to me. Appreciate it if you do. Seahawks fan 1, just get Clowney and Cam Jordan. We'll be loaded edge. I'm with it, man. That's the market opportunity to me. That's the way to maximize the edge group out without having to spend too much to go and get it done. I love the approach. Bradford should take ballet. Couldn't hurt, right? Couldn't hurt. He'd be lighter on his feet from it. Randall with another $5 donation. Thank you for that, Randall. Am I remembering right that Spoon was a bit hard to sign on his rookie deal? Like the first round guy to sign? Like the last first round guy to sign? Just wonder how this is going to look. Yeah, you are remembering it correctly, and it had to do with guaranteed money that I believe that he was looking, if it wasn't bonus, it was guaranteed money that Spoon was wanting to get in that deal that John was a little uncomfortable with. And so that led to it taking a little bit of time to get done. I think what's kind of holding this up majorly, I think, as much as anything else, has to do probably with a little bit of the fact that the agent for Witherspoon is the same agent for Gonzalez. And he's trying to get a deal done for both. And he's probably trying to get both of those two teams to hand out deals that are, supremely top of the market, where you're not just, slightly bettering the McDuffie deal, but that you're actually really superseding past it. And so on probably both accounts, both players with this agent are probably pushing to get that there. That's where it probably gets tough from a Seattle Seahawks perspective, because you come back to it and you say, look, the point of us giving you an extension now, 3 years here in your rookie contract, is that we're not holding you over the barrel for the next 2 years and saying we're not giving you a deal. We're not using a franchise tag saying you're going to play under this, that we're rewarding you with that extension right now. You got to give us something back to the other side of that. You got to be willing to take a little bit less money or wait for the guaranteed money to click down the line a little bit so we can fit this under our cap right. And that's where Seattle's got the leverage here on this one, to where I think a deal does get done and Spoon eventually people's come to make that peace with it. But I do think that there's a level of complexity that's added because of the Gonzalez going on at the very same time, then those negotiations with the Patriots, and because it's the same exact agent. I think that's where you can understand why this is probably getting a little bit, wonky on that side of it, just a tiny bit. Addicted Brandon, the play where Bradford knocked down Abe Cross, what do you think Abe said when they got to the sideline? I know he's a silent type, but man, he had to say something. Why are you hitting me, bro? I don't know. I don't know what you say. It's like that one that I showed where he's literally knocking Lucas off of his block so that he can go and grab Derek Brown. Like, you just put your hands on Lucas there. You might have started your hand shoot out to try to attack Derek Brown, but the hands then land on Lucas, and then you just sort of completed the process to throw Lucas off. It's a weird rep, and there are these strange reps for Bradford that are sometimes inexplicable. And I know that I'm in some ways kind of, explaining for some of his play to a certain degree here that's limiting and trying to kind of find the nuance within this. But the stuff that's bad there, I don't want to say isn't there. It is there, and it is really frustrating. And it is one where you just go, I'm trying to unpack this for you, buddy. I'm trying to walk through what you were thinking on this play and what your process took you through on this play. It's not like you're playing quarterback. It's not like you got 5 reads and a defensive pre to post snap alignment and coverages and all that. What was your plan here? What was the whole, it was that one rep I showed with the Niners where he misses the double team off the snap. Then he misses Fred Warner at the second level. You're not close on any of those 2 blocks. What was your plan there? How did you get slid out to the right? How did your feet take you out right to the side? Like some of the stuff like Prince talks about where there's lack of balance and there's some of the times where he's just not going to be laterally good. That's there. But the snaps and the reps there where you can go, look, if you have a good plan of attack pre-snap here, post-snap, your chances of success are going to be much more improved versus those reps that are whiffs and are whiffs on the back of you seemingly not having any kind of plan, you having kind of almost a Woolen-like brain fart moment on the field. Where just I just wasn't thinking about anything on this play. I just didn't have anything in my brain on this play. First, I got to be out here. I got to shoot this to the hard shoulder here and get into that spot there. I don't know if it's always engaged playing and play out with him. And that's why some of these reps will show up that are so weird. See, Dan, I have a feeling Witherspoon loves this team and loves to win. I just don't see it going too long to sign him to a long-term deal. No, I don't. I think they find a way to get it done too. I think you're in the right place, Nicholas. 33 to 35 million per year is that's probably right where it's going to sit. Cave Troll's on it too. Spoon's agent, same as Gonzo. This is going to take a while between all parties. Yeah, it just makes it more It's hard enough to get a deal done like this where you're already trying to set a market setting deal for this position. Like, we're going to pay him to the highest of any corner in the sport, but then you have this going on at the same time that you're equivalent here in the AFC, and then you have the same agent. It just adds a little bit of a layer of extra to this one, doesn't it? It's gone Bradford. Contract year, making $4.5 million this season. Probably is going to be your starter going through this season. And I think there is some hope here. They might get some more mild improvement from him in certain ways, but you get the good and the bad with them. As I put in the thumbnail, you get the heaven and the hell with the Bradford experience. It's a bit of both that you're getting there. Chris says, I dozed off. A guy sits in the lazy boy for 30 minutes after riding the wave runners, and I can't get back up. Age is a bitch. It is, man. That nap thing gets you as you get older. I was not a napper as a young man. Like napping can give you just as you get older, it sneaks up on you and says, hey, you can sleep a little bit here. We gave Bradford 10 million a year. No, we didn't give Bradford 10 million a year. He's on 4.5 right now. How good's the center and right tackle? Sundell got better and better as the year went along. I think he rounded into like kind of a top 15-ish center last season when it was all said and done. And Abraham Lucas is easily a top 10 right tackle in this sport, maybe a top 7, 8 guy right now. Yeah, I'd take Gonzo over Sauce as well. King Veta, who will we give the returns to? Shaheed, Horde, and Price look like they can all take it all the way. Who do we put back there? I don't think you're going to put Price back there. I think Shaheed's going to be your main guy, and then it's kind of a question as to who the next guy is going to be. Depends on kind of how the roster shakes out with who makes the squad. You know, like a Henderson makes it, for instance. He might be the other returner back there, King. If not him, then it's probably going to be, I don't know if you do Horton. I think with Horton and Price, there's an element here where I think you're going to want those guys to be a little bit sub-protected by not putting them in positions that are going to have a decent likelihood of a potential injury. And like in Horton's case, I got beat up last year, kind of playing just through the first half of the season a bit as the third receiver. I don't think you're going to want to put that guy in harm's way on the kickoff coverage unit. So I think Horton's your backup punt return to Shaheed. But then you're going to have Shaheed as your kick returner and then kind of a Holani or, a kind of a whoever guy's that second guy. It's kind of irrelevant because, like, you always have Shaheed taking it back every time. It's kind of why you want to pay him. But I think with those other two guys, King, you're going to try to protect them, I think, a little bit. Tuba, you were thinking, I was thinking. Tuba just seems right, doesn't it? He plays the drums for sure. I was thinking drums. I did have a thought process of drums, but he's just got no rhythm. That's the only problem there, Chase. See, down if we had Gonzo automatic back-to-back Super Bowls, that'd be a hell of a secondary, man. You ain't wrong there. Lotan's got bass, got another tuba. Tuba's getting some love here. Definitely not drums. Rockman's with me. He doesn't got any rhythm, man. It's like, it'd be like one of these things. No, I don't know. Nick to Brandon, great point about the Seahawks spending $4.5 million this year. I hope Coach Benton succeeds. Think how scary our run and pass games would become if Bradford steps up. Wow. Yeah, it's that thing of if he can just be just a bit more of a functional place. He doesn't have to take these 4 steps forward in his game and become a significantly better player that we know is never really going to come. I'm never try to sell you guys on there's some all-pro living inside of this guy. And like, that's not ever going to be the case with him. Nothing ever even close to that. But if you can get a couple steps forward and you just think about it from a logical and rationale standpoint, do players tend to play their best in contract years? Yeah. In the NFL, we have seen that time and time again where the free agent season that's coming up in front of me is a hell of a motivating factor for me to be at my best, to be in my best shape. Even if I can't keep this level of intensity for a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, I can do it through an off season to make sure I'm in my best shape. Because if I'm in my best shape and I can get a little bit more forward, I'm talking about tens of millions of dollars that are sitting on the table for me to take advantage of. Versus if I fall flat on my face, if I suck it up, if I even regress, I'm losing a lot of money off that. I'll make maybe only that couple $1 million a year if it goes the other direction of it. So I believe in this as a motivating factor because I've just seen it in NFL through decades and decades of football and what this does for players as far as pushing them, knowing what's kind of there and at stake for you to go and grab. And I'm guessing that, he's going to maximize that. So we'll see. I think coming back again to an offensive line that gets to return all 5 starters, that gets to return the same offensive system, that gets to return the same offensive line coach for a guy in Bradford who's, let's face it, played through a couple of different offensive line coaches here through his time. I think that that's going to be helpful. I think that that's going to, not saying it's going to swing this majorly. I'm not overstating it. It's these tiny things. It's these little things that you put together that adds up to something that's got a little bit more measurable impact to it, perhaps. But I think that that's another tiny thing that's going to help Bradford. It certainly isn't going to hurt him having every starter on that offensive line return back. It's not going to be an impediment. But yeah, you are still paying him pretty decent money this year on that $4.5 million contract. That's where if Stevens does come in and does prove to be much better as a player, then you are likely seeing them probably moving by trade. He's not going to sit on the bench at that point. Max says, I'm very happy to have Bradford as our weak link offensive lineman. It obviously worked last year. I'll be very happy if Bo can come along and replace him, though. I think long-term, he is the fit long-term here. We'll see if he can come into camp and do it, man. He's played a lot of football out there at Iowa. So he's got a lot of that backing that Bradford didn't have coming out, where Bradford had very few starts, like 15 starts or something at LSU. And in Stevens, you got a guy that started for well over 2 years there at Iowa, including right guard starting experience. Addicted Brandon, Dogzilla, Tuba is correct. I know my dad and older brother were band directors. Let's go. It just feels right. That just feels right on the button. Rockman, Bradford's a great backup if he loses the right guard spot. That's where I think it'll be hard to hold on to him as that backup right guard. Rockman, as I walk through this, and again, it is a little bit of a logical trying process here, so it can go either way on this kind of stuff. But you have a guy in Bradford that loses his starting job. He's in a contract year. He's not happy about that he's got to stay behind this guy. There's a team out there that could use some right guard help. You say, okay, we'll throw you the Bradford for a 5th round pick. You get the 5th round back in return. You save the money on that deal at that point with Bradford. You already have Haynes here to kind of be your backup right guard at that point to Stevens as it goes that way. And some of this could be driven as well by the team having some real hope a little bit in Richmond and Cable Due to develop his interior lineman as well. So there is a little bit of a guessing game on this one, and I'm kind of sight unseen, kind of blindly guessing what I think the team's kind of thinking on this a little bit. But I do think if he goes to backup, he's probably not on the roster. Nate Davis is my comp from the Charlotte Titans, 3rd round pick in 2019. Let's see here. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show you a little bit, Nate, Oiler Titan, like where there's, I think it's not a bad comp necessarily, but when you do look at it, there's a couple things that stand out that are part of what I think had Seattle so attracted to Bradford when they took him. Now look, Davis was taken in the 3rd round, 5.23, 40-yard dash. Notice though the 10-yard split at 1.84 especially. Like these guys, certainly when it comes to their 3 cone and their 20-yard shuttle, there might be some overlap on that side of it. But then when you go to when you go to then Oiler Titans, Bradford's testing times with this a little bit and look at it, there's a little bit of a different neighborhood. Number one, he's about 16, 17 pounds heavier on that side of it right out the gate. But then the kind of the part that's interesting with him is that it's the 10, when you look, especially the 10-yard split aspect, he ran number one on almost a 5.40, which Davis, 17 pounds lighter, ran a 5.23. He ran a 5.08. But then the 10-yard split, 1.66 versus the 1.84 of Nate Davis. So not a bad comp, but just kind of does show you about a little bit of that explosiveness that existed in Bradford that was part of the draw and what made him, the 4th round pick at the time there. And I think in Davis, you had a little bit more of an accomplished tape with him coming out, a little bit like he had done a little bit more of looking ready to go. I think versus Bradford that looked a little bit more like a project, albeit one with some very nice natural stuff to him, Spoon's waiting for Gonzalez to sign. Could be. Where's that dude? Colby from Patriots Global, mind blowing. He makes Jake look like an amateur. Master Chief, Brandon, did you see the Mina Kimes, Ben Solak nonsense quarterback ranking? They had Sam at 19. Yeah, I think it's a ridiculous list. And it's kind of silly the way you do it. Like, well, who's the guy that you would want for 3 years out on the, like, let's just put a quarterback list. Why are we doing all of these, like, trying to preface it this way and preface it that way? Like, who do you want right now? How about just that? And the whole young quarterback thing to me is kind of an irrelevancy when you talk about a guy that's still in his 20s, being Sam, and knowing that it's a quarterback position, that if you are good, if you get to that place in your career where you're in your late 20s and you're playing a lot of football and you're starting games and you're playing high-level football, good chance you can go play in your mid-30s to even late 30s. So the whole thinking of like these young quarterbacks need to be, hyper worshipped a little bit over the other guys simply because of their age factor, which I would argue a lot of that list sort of comprised up of. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know what Kyler Murray did for so many people out there, football minds wise, to get the benefit of the doubt. I saw this with Arizona. I saw this on the round table for 2 straight years, arguing the case that he was not that good. And they pushed back against me and they told me he was a top 10 quarterback. And everyone kind of not everyone, but there's a lot of people that sure dress up Kyler Murray in a way that he has not earned, in my opinion. And boy, when you get picked number 1 overall, that sure does carry a lot of weight, doesn't it? Even having a marginal amount of success. It's like, that's still just sort of, it's like this pride thing that you got to hang on top of everything else. So I thought it was just stupid. It's just silliness to me. And it's nowhere near where he should be at. He's a top 10 quarterback. That's where Sam should be at. You want to say 12? Okay. You want to say 8? Okay. You want to say even 7? I might even go up to 7. But you're into 19 and you're in the wrong territory of things. And it's, again, back to it goes to show you, even in the case of Mina, here's somebody that should know better and watches the Seahawks and covers the Seattle Seahawks and should understand this, that it's like, where are you pulling this from? How are you getting to this as a place with what he just did last 2 years in 2 different spots? I can look at a lot of those guys on that list that are down below him on that list that would not have been able to do anything close to what he's done the past 2 years on 2 separate teams. HHG says I'd trade Bradford for a bowl of Alfredo. Doesn't even need the just the sauce too. Not even the fried, not even the noodles, just the sauce. Willer Titans is the guy from the Dolphins and AFC Roundtable has the Finns winning the division. TD Willer Titan TD is he's a guy that, like, he's in that super hopeful phase where it's just been beaten down for so long. It's just all he's got is the hope, and you can't take that from that man. You can't take that from him. But I don't know if he really believes it either. He'll say stuff, but I've heard him talk trash before. Where it's like, I know you don't mean that. I know you don't believe that. Levy, the men, thank you for the $5 donation. Just heard your clip channel outro song. So damn good. Can you make a full version? It's so catchy. He's been killing it over there in a great way. I've got a clips guy over there, Levy, that's been doing that's been putting in the work. So, I will get the word out to him to maybe try to see if he can put together a full little like video of it or something, maybe, having some fun with it. But he's got a music background. He does really great stuff with that. I'm really happy with the job he's been doing over there. Just took it right on. He's taken it and just ran with the opportunity like I hoped he kind of would. And I'm really excited. We got the Clips channel running in full now. It's really cooking over there. You guys are over there watching there on the channel, and you guys seem to really be loving what he's doing over there, which I really like. And I like he's been running on the kind of creative side. So I haven't had any input on it, Levitt. Well, I've had input on just throw clips, but he's been running on his own on that side of it and just been kind of cooking that stuff on his own. But I'll let him know. I'll let him know that more of the songs would be nice, that people are digging it, man. He's good with it, though. I agree. He's doing a great job. Thank you, Levy. I'll try to see if I can get him to put a full one together. Chris says the term is Brad fart. Addicted Brandon, can we not be greedy and sign both Clowney and Jordan? Maybe not enough cap space, but would love to see Schneider get greedy with 2 more additions along with Fowler. Yeah, there's 2 different fronts why this wouldn't really work. First, you've got the roster problem at play where, the NFL didn't expand rosters, technically speaking, a couple of years ago when they went to 17-game season. They expanded the practice squad. And so what this means is that you're still very much hindered by having to not have too many numbers at one position because you're going to have to pull away from other positions. And the Seattle Seahawks have some hardline things in place which already make this kind of difficult to do addicted. For instance, you've got two fullbacks that you're going to have on your roster at the same time, and that's not easy to deal with. You're going to want to have three tight ends on the roster at all times. That's not easy not that you can't overcome that. It just means that you're not going lighter there. Some teams might only go two tight ends. Some teams might not have a fullback. Well, now they can have extra edges and they can have extra corners, right? Because you're not having that taken up in another way. But Seattle kind of has on its roster other things that are sort of taking that away that don't make that possible. You got your three quarterbacks on the roster. You've got these positional groups that are already kind of maxed out as far as the numbers you can be carrying. So you just can't afford to carry 6 edges. You can afford to carry 5, but you can't afford to carry 6. I think the other part that would make this hard is really playing time. I think it's already going to be a little bit of a tough sell on Jadeveon Clowney to say, okay, you're coming in as our 5th edge who's going to get 10 snaps a game. That doesn't sound fun. That's kind of maybe all you got to offer at that point. And so I think it would be absolutely impossible to be talking them into you're going to get 5 snaps a game, Cam. You want that? No, I don't want that. You have to do better than that, bro. So I think it's both of those two fronts that really prevent you being able to double dip on both sides of it. I think if you got 5 deep, you should be good there. Fro says, I don't understand players that say they love the game more than anything, but refuse to play if they're only going to get 30 million instead of 32 million. That says to me, they love the money, not the game. Well, I think that you're onto something in the respect of, what players tend to say with this is more about public relations and selling a line, and that it never sounds good if a player comes out and says, I'm going to make every last dollar I can make. If you don't like that, go pound sand. And it's just easier in the name of not having argumentativeness or having friction or having people get all pissy with you, and just to say, no, it's not about, I'm not all about money. I want to be paid. I want my, but this is they house this stuff oftentimes in respect too, right, Fro? So they often talk about they're not showing me the respect. It's oh, you mean you're not getting paid enough? But they don't just come out and say they're not paying me enough. And so you play this word game a little bit, semantics game a little bit with these players and how they're kind of trying to establish this. But money is absolutely an important factor. And for some guys, I think that there are the exceptions. And to the guys that are the exceptions, I tip my hat to them, because they are guys that I think kind of get and understand the fact that, if I can get a team that has a couple of these guys that do this, I'm going to add a few more players, and that's going to help me to get that little bit extra to take us over the top. I could make that difference at the end of the day, especially when we're talking about, like you speak to, money numbers that aren't just simply a guy talking about I got to, instead of going with this one team and going and taking 30 at 20 million, I'm going to take 30 for 10 million at this team. No, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about a couple $1 million on a guy that's making tens of millions of dollars. So it is one I share with you on them. And you'd think there'd be more guys that maybe kind of get that, especially with the tax stuff that fits into this, where it's you're losing half of it anyway once you get up to that spot. Great eyes are Hawk's Nest. Also, thank you for taking my questions. By the way, is that you dressed up or AI? No insult on the jazz intros of your vids, outro of your vids. Sharp man, sharp. You dig? Cool, daddy-o. Cool, daddy-o. No, that's my guy. He's getting it done out there. He's working with some of the AI stuff out there and playing around with the music aspect of it. I just told him, go crazy. Don't want any limitations on him. I want him to just go out there and go nuts on the Clips channel, post as much as possible for you guys over there, and just have fun with it and expand it in the ways that he looks to expand it in the future, because I think that the Clips channel has a chance to be every bit as big as the main channel, because people aren't always, not everybody's in on the long form 3 to 10 hour shows. That's not for everybody, But thank you, Grandizer. I'll let him know your guys' positive comments on that. He'll dig that. I'm with you on this, Nicholas. He says, if I take a nap, I'm more tired afterwards. I'm the same way, where it doesn't do me any benefits, but you are going to get to the age you'll find too, where it's you don't have a choice. Why am I just so tired? God, I'm just... It's one of those things, where your body will overrule you as you start to get a little bit older and be like, no, you are. No, you are. No, you are. But I'm the same way. If I do a nap, I pay the price for it, where I can never wake up the whole rest of the day. Herbicide says, I love my naps. It's tough for me too. If I do a nap and then the kitty comes in and cuddles and then I can't get back up. Prince says, I get the impression that even though Spoon's agent is the same company as JSN's agent, Spoon's agent is much more mercenary about money than JSN's. I'm afraid he won't listen if Spoon says he wants to stay. You never know on that type of stuff, man. And, we dealt with before in the past an agent kind of playing by his own set of rules and how problematic that could be. Because remember, Russell Wilson had the baseball agent and how much friction that led to between him and John because he was operating with kind of a baseball agent's mentality. And so you're not wrong for pointing out that this is potentially could be a problematic thing. And we'll just have to see how it kind of rolls along with that a little bit. But I think it's going to be very hard for Spoon to walk into this negotiation or for Spoon's people to walk into this negotiation and say, you're going to need to make us the highest paid player in the sport at this position. And by far, you're not just going to better it by $500,000 of what the last guy just got paid this off season. No, you need to come at $3, $4, $5 million more per year for us. And then you're going to do it 2 years before my rookie deal even expires. I think that's where you come down to it. The player, if I'm John in that position, I say, you can have it two ways here. You can have the easy way, you can have the hard way. You let me know which way you want to go. Easy way is we find a deal that works out for both team and player, and you get the certainty of knowing you're going to get your big major contract through in the rest of your career. You're set in that way. We get knowing you're going to be here with us through your prime, throughout your seasons, and that we can also manage your cap hits throughout those years so that it doesn't have to hit us in a hard fashion that we can't, easily be able to kind of manipulate to keep this thing rolling in the right direction and keep being, adding these players in the way we've been able to add them through the years. So that's where this does get pretty simple for me on Spoon's side of this really quickly. We can have you play out this next year. You can just play out this next year on the 4th year deal if that's where you're pushing for. Because what changes from our perspective? If you're demanding right now that I got to make you $36 million per year paid, and McDuffie just signed the contract at $30 million, and you're looking to supersede that by that much, you're looking at sort of Tyler Linderbaum, the next last paid center, and you're going to make 27. Last paid center made 20. You're going to make 27. Okay, well, if you're doing that, can't we just do that after this year anyway? So we're going to come back you're going to play another year. You'll be an all-pro. You ball out. You come through the next year, you're through your 4th year. And so now instead of asking for the $35 million you're asking for now this year, you're going to ask for what? 37? 38? Like, where's the savings from Seattle's perspective at that point? I would think from John's stance on that. And so this always, again, it's a little bit of a guess here for me, Prince, but I do think that's where you as a team have the leverage here over the player. And this is also why you want to be careful on playing this game a little bit with being cheap, where Cowboys in this territory would be like, well, we don't want to pay the $30 million. He's got 2 years left. He get $30 million next year. And then the Cowboys get the next year and they're like, well, he doesn't just want 30 now. He wants the 37. Wow, we got to trade him. Like, that's not what you're doing here. I think you're definitely offering him a market opportunity deal. But everything that I've heard in the background on this is a little bit of that. Spoon and Gonzalez as agents don't just want to be paid a little bit more past the last corner. They want to be paid far past the last corner. They almost want to be paid from a positionless aspect of things versus, what you're slotted to make as an outside corner in the league a little bit. HHG, well, I guess if Bradford doesn't re-sign, we get a comp pick for it. Yep. As long as we don't, of course, sign free agents to the other side of it. John's with me. Thank you for the $2 donation, John. I'm with you on this 100%. Looking forward to seeing Bradford year 2 with Benton. I am too. I'm not expecting some reversal of fortune as far as the outcome of his play and that we're going to get some supremely different player. But do I think that there's some reason to think that you can get some marginal improvements in a couple of different areas of his game? And that if now that those marginal improvements really come forward with the rest of this offensive line, that this is the point that we start, how can the offense take steps forward? How can the offense get even a little bit better? I'm in the same place, man. Remembering too with him, as I said earlier on this, that Bradford, I think, has gone through 3 offensive line coaches in his time here. Has it been 3 or 4, something like that? Randall, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, didn't AB test near elite and combine for a guard? Yeah, I was presenting this earlier on this. This is raw score right here, Randall. And thank you, man, for your support as always, brother. You're awesome. Awesome. But I was presenting here, as you can see, Randall here, 9.81 relative athletic score for Anthony Bradford. He's 90th percentile weight, bench, vertical, broad, 40-yard dash, 20-yard split off the 40-yard dash, 10-yard split off the 40-yard dash, and then still very good on the height, shuttle, and three-cone data as well. So, yes, very much so elite athletic scores for him coming out of LSU. You're on it with that one, Randall. Dogzilla, thank you for the $2 donation. Bradford on drums. No need to worry about key. That is true. But when he's off beat, Dogzilla, when he's off beat, man, he's missing that thing by a mile. Wasn't there supposed to be a snare there, Anthony? He just shrugs at you. He just gives you a shrug. Was there? I don't know. It kind of felt like maybe there was. Details. Thomas Cox, thank you for the $5 donation. Thomas, you're awesome, brother. I saw on X that Artie Moreno of the Anaheim Angels is linked to buying the Seahawks. He spends money, but he is hands-on. What is your opinion? Well, I think they did win a World Series at one point with him as an owner there. The Angels did, I think, but it was right, I think, when he initially bought them, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have a real super great, huge opinion one way or the other with Artie on that, to be honest with you, Thomas. So I don't have a lot to offer with it on it. I do think he's come in at times maybe a little bit too much, to your point on the Angels situation. The way that they dealt with the Shohei Ohtani thing was, I think probably where your point would be at on that, where it's like you let him get to free agency and you should have traded him. And I think that there was some wonder there that maybe the owner had prevented them from doing that because, the draw of that and all that. And that would be one thing that would get talked a lot about if he buys the team, of him coming in and doing something similar. But I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on that one. I'm sorry, Thomas, with Artie. I don't have a lot of knowledge on him with the Anaheim, and baseball is very hard right now to win, even when you're willing to spend, as it's just the sport's in a little bit of a weird place right now from a competitive balance standpoint, I would say. So hard to say what he would do with that, but that's interesting. Thanks for the update on that, with the rumor with that he's looking at potentially buying him. That'd be a dark horse name that kind of came out of nowhere. Thomas, thank you for another $5 donation, man. 3 $5 donations, actually. Got another one after this one. You're great, brother. Appreciate you for all your support, man. I just love people saying Seattle will regress. Heck, I got in an argument with someone on X. All I can point to is Seattle got lucky, etc. Yeah, you got a taste of it and flavor of it, Thomas. And you've seen me on the round table with this, and I continue to just not quite understand it. Where people aren't even beginning to try to understand why Seattle won last year. People aren't even understanding why, or trying to understand why we ascended to greatness. Because you're hearing luck and things broke in your favor, and just it was like a perfect storm just allowed for this thing to happen for you, rather than you actually taking a lot of individual things and putting them together to build the greatness you did. And I think some of this is going to get represented in a show that I'm going to do this next Wednesday, which is going to be looking at John Schneider over the last few years, especially, and some of these moves that he's made to make this happen. But I run into the same thing, Thomas, and I continue to get confounded by it as you do, where you get into debates with people and you get into discussions with people, and they're not actually giving you back and forth. They're not actually giving you blow by blow for why Seattle's going to be worse, for why the Rams are going to be so much better, for why we're going to fall back down to earth, and that our true selves are going to show up now. They're not building their case for it. They're just kind of something they generally believe. And that's the part where you get frustrated, because you're like, well, no, you got to actually pinpoint to specific items for why you think this. What is it specifically you're looking at here? Give me something that's tangible than just luck, which means nothing. Teams don't luck into Super Bowls. That's the other part I don't get with this. I legitimately have never heard about a team in NFL history that's won a Super Bowl and people ascribed it to luck. They might ascribe it to luck on that given game that you won in the Super Bowl, right? But they're not going to ascribe your season to luck, your greatness to luck. They're not going to, and that's what a lot of people have done out there, and especially the national and the analysts out there on it, but it's also some general fans outside of Seattle that have this sort of feeling. Certainly a lot of Ram fans that are operating in this mindset. And I sort of shake my head at it, Thomas, and I just go, you guys, I just kind of, to me, it's more of, Thomas, not even worth getting debate at that point, because you kind of show off you show off your slip of lack of knowledge as a football fan. Because again, it's not just Seattle. It's no NFL team goes through this sport, the sport of parity, the sport of every team's got a chance every season. Thomas was bringing up Artie Moreno on the post above in baseball. How many teams in baseball every single year, game one, know they've got no chance that year to do anything? Hell, you could make an argument 31 teams in the Major League Baseball this year know they've got no chance to winning a World Series because the Dodgers are just that stacked. And they can buy their way into championship after championship. But in football, that's not the case. It's tremendously competitive. Every team is in on trying to do what they can to win. And so thusly, if you do go attain the ultimate championship, the ultimate prize, you did so by earning it. Because there is no freebies in this sport. It even blows my mind further than this, because you can get into the depths of this even more, Thomas, to where you go, and yeah, by the way, we played in the toughest division in football on top of it. And maybe the toughest division in football over the last 20 years. Like if you tried to rank who have been the best divisions by season for the last 20 years, NFC West would absolutely be one of those teams you're talking about if we're talking about a handful of 5 teams over the last 20 or 5 divisions over the last 20 years that have played supremely great for a given NFL season. NFC West would have been one of those teams you would have pointed to as far as your level of competition just to win your division. And then you had to do it twice. You had to do it in the playoffs on top of the regular season. These should be items that open people's eyes up to the fact that it didn't happen by just luck or you fell into it, but that you truly had to earn it above and beyond, if anything else. It should be on the other side of it. It should be like, man, that team really had to prove they had the goods to go and get that championship. But they're saying it the opposite way, Thomas, and you're running into it and I'm running into it. And if you listen to them, they're not, as you touch on, they're not basing it on anything. They're just basing it on that sort of, I just got a general gut feeling instinct. I just kind of feel this. Oh, you can't put any points together. You can't put an argument blow by blow together for why it's this way. You just kind of generally think it. So I see the same thing, man. And it's been wild because I don't think I can remember a recent Super Bowl team that people looked at in that manner and were like, especially with us, 14 wins, dominant Super Bowl victory, won our division twice, toughest division in football probably in the last 20 years, but just kind of goes right over the top of their head, doesn't it, Thomas? Thomas says, would you trade Milroe if he doesn't improve and go after a quarterback in the next draft, either by trade up or falls to you? Well, first, let's operate from the standpoint of if he doesn't improve. I think that that's been a big part of what I've looked at with Jalen Milroe is that you cannot make the assessment of Jalen Milroe based off of 1 year in Seattle. And you can't make it off of a year and a half in Seattle. That we have to give this guy 2 years of progression time to become whatever it is he is going to become as far as giving us true confidence or optimism that the improvement's coming from him, from what he was as a college quarterback, and that especially the rough edges that were all over the place with him have started to be cleaned up. Maybe they don't have to be fixed through 2 years, but that you're seeing the track line of improvement, that there's a guy that is coming forward in their play. And so if you're through the end of these 2 years and you've come to the assessment that that's not happening, that he's kind of staying in the same place of where he's at, you now have Drew Lock out from under his 2-year contract that he signed. And yes, I think that especially if the Sam Darnold contract negotiations don't go great, then you're going to want to find yourself a little bit of a hedge there. I don't know if as much the hedge has got to be a guy necessarily that you go out there and you draft necessarily, Thomas. I'm not against it, but I think like next year's draft class, there's so many teams that sort of kind of punted on quarterbacks this year to where they're going to be picking those guys right and left, and you're just not going to have a great selection of guys. You could trade up to go get a guy, but the cost for that is just so pricey. And one of the things that stood out here recently is that John has found some really good value without having to move up into the first round to go get his quarterback. The third round value you found in Russell Wilson, the Geno Smith value you found, the Sam Darnold value you found. I think I would more lean to have John kind of try to find that guy, maybe a guy that didn't have success in his first landing spot, who's now out there on the open market, and you bring in there as a bit of that reclamation, and that he kind of can become that guy that, is more ready to go if he has to hit the field. Because a big part of this becomes, Thomas, if you draft a guy, that guy becomes your backup quarterback, is how confident do I have that this guy comes in for a championship ready-made roster and can actually, keep this train on the tracks and can keep this thing going forward. Doesn't have to be as good as the starter, but that he's not going to fall on his face if he's a young quarterback stepping on the field who's not ready to play, but we drafted high and we're looking at his long-term upside. That'd be the one worry I would have with maybe taking that approach, is that you're in a team in a place right now that just isn't a place to me where we can kind of sit through for a young quarterback to kind of find his way and learn his way through. And especially in this outside zone offense, which is not a spread-based offense where they're just going to be able to use a lot of the stuff that they've done from college and just have it carry over. So I'm more in this other place of things now, kind of when we go forward. But I do think after 2 years, that's your assessment on Milroe. You got to kind of know where you stand on him at that point as far as the de facto quarterback of the future. And even if you don't move off of him at that, he is that or not that, then at the end of that. And that you're pretty certain in your mind at the end of that as to where he's landing after 2 years. Because we should see some of this improvement come forward by that point. It's a great question, Thomas. Great question. I think this draft's going to be a hard one to go find a quarterback in. And again, if we hadn't had that success of recent guys that you've been able to go find value in other places, of guys that essentially the NFL has sort of casted away and said these guys will never be anything, and you just had a little bit more imagination to it, you as an organization did, I think you can apply that again. Because I think a lot of these teams all want the fancy, brand new, never been taken out of the box kind of feeling, fresh car smell, quarterback feeling thing. And I think that's a thing that's more of like, that becomes a deficiency almost. Like you want the new and the fresh, and then that has you chasing young quarterbacks not ready to play, take a while to develop, versus looking for the guys that are like Sam, just grinding and working, and that the position takes sometimes 4 or 5 years to really get your head around it and really be able to, do all the things you'd want a quarterback to be able to do to be able to maximize their abilities. Great question. Catalyst, if Bradford got traded to a team that's more of a downhill gap power run game, I think Bradford would be maybe better. Still, the continuity is fine. Yeah, I think that's a fair. There's a couple of people who made this point as well today on this show, Catalyst, tonight. I think it's a fair point. That maybe more gap, more mano-a-mano kind of system. If he was on more of like a Buffalo Bill kind of offensive line, they got an Osiris Torrance there at right guard already, so they already got their Bradford there basically. But that would be the type of team that I would estimate that he would, kind of go to. That'd be who he'd look to, is a little bit more of that. Maybe more like what Harbaugh's probably not looking for this as much now with McDaniel there, but kind of lineman Harbaugh maybe look for out there with the Chargers, other Harbaugh in New York too. He likes big old offensive linemen like this, big old guards like that. IGGB, who are you trying to get for behind enemy lines for week one? Week one. I'll try to get Colby. Both me and Colby are on the round table. But I'll tell you this, Colby's evasive, man. I tried to get a behind enemy lines with Colby for the Super Bowl, and I couldn't get him pinned down for that. So I'm hoping I can get him a little more responsive for the week one situation. And Colby's done it before with me, HHG. I've gotten him to do the behind enemy lines before when we played, but I just couldn't get him on the Super Bowl. So we'll try to get him for week one. There's not a lot of content creators out there on the Patriots side of it, surprisingly enough. New York team, I think Jadarian Price can be a top 10 running back. Jeremiah Love. So do I, man. Certainly, especially New York team for what he's going to have around him to work with to set him up for success. That list was nonsense. Yeah, I thought so as well, Brian. It's like behind Murray. Like that alone was like, what? What are you guys doing? Like it just, people with sometimes these lists, and it's why I don't do a lot of this list stuff, is it's arbitrary. Every individual person has their own little metrics that they apply that's different from everybody else. It kind of makes it less fun than it might seem on the surface. It's a little bit like you guys have, I'm sure, seen a lot of this silly Elway Rodgers debate thing that's funneling around online. And it's like that, where it's just like, rather than celebrating the greatness of these two players, we're picking apart both players to try to determine which one was the actual better, pure, natural prospect of it. It's like, to me, it's not a very productive conversation because we end up, if anything, sort of picking at what are great players rather than, celebrating the good stuff that they really did do. And you're talking about two players in a Rodgers or Elway. They're two of the most talented quarterbacks ever. So you're really getting to a place of trying to peel back the sticky layers there between the two. But yeah, I thought the list was silly. Catalyst says their criteria made no sense based on some of their placements. I thought so as well. I just didn't think that's that arbitrary thing where it just didn't seem, what is your rule? How are you applying this rule? What? And it's where it's like, just do it based off of quarterbacks right now. Don't do this. Well, who would you take if you had a 3-year blah, blah, blah? It's just no. Why? It's almost kind of like rigging up your own little poll a little bit there. Cardia Wright's interesting, Addicted. Kind of forgotten man, but he was kind of fun last year. Hopefully Zach can come back soon in New York. Everything sounds like it's going well on the rehab. Mina's still salty about his Geno takes, so Sam can't be better. You might be onto something there a little bit. Banker, did she assume Darnold will be gone after 3 years? No. Because, Kyler Murray's on a 1-year contract with Minnesota. It's like, and they had Kyler Murray ahead on the list, Banker, than Darnold. So, if that's that thing I think Catalyst was just talking about, some of the criteria was a little uneven. Where it's like, how are you applying this? How are you thinking he's not? And then he's going to be like a shell of himself at 31 years old, 3 years from now? Why? Yeah. I like Mina too. It's just that this particular list was one that was just a little, huh? Yeah, I saw the list like, what? A Banker, if Dolphins win the division and everyone else suffer 10 ACLs per team, it would take that. They need that division to collapse for them to win it. Like they're firmly one of those teams that's very resolutely in the tank mode. They're not in any mode but tanking. And that's not bad for them. That's the good place they should be. But TD's completely off his rocker if he thinks that, Benjamin TD Fins talk. He had fake Fins. He's a fake Fins fan when he had a dip in viewers for his tour hate. He started going to Eagles content. Where's Fins content creator ever? It's hard, man. The tough part with it, and I got a taste for this with the end of the Legion of Boom years and some of the conversations we had to have. And, you're trying to be honest and true. And in the case of the Tua thing, you're correct on your outlook and assessment of him. Fans blow back and push back against you. And it's one where it gets you sort of thinking. It's like, well, geez, I'm right on my take. This guy isn't that good, but everybody's been mad at me about that. But he's very entertaining. He's good at what he does. And I like working with him on the round table. Show. That franchise has been struggling for a while too. Once you get in that 3 decades roll of it, it's like, it gets dark. Catalyst, the criteria of 3-year longevity isn't really a good measuring tool. I agree. It's not, especially the quarterback position that you play so long in. Like this ain't the running. Maybe if you're talking about running backs, but Dig to Brandon. Can you add Bon Scott vocal? Add to your clip musicians takes. That'd be epic. I will. I'll try. See if I can find something. The music gets harder to. You can create your own music, but if you try to grab some clips of music, they can get a little touchy on that with the tube. Banker hot take, should have played basketball or baseball instead of football if you wanted the money. I like it, man, Banker. I do. It's definitely a sport where it's like, it's a little bit by a different set of rules than some of those other sports in that way. And players sometimes get caught off guard by that, but it's like, to your point, it's been this way for a long period of time. And it's not that the NFL is cold-blooded for how they run contracts and how fast things move. It's the nature of the sport. It's the brutal nature of the sport and how the bodies can't take it for a long period of time. And you can't give out guaranteed contracts when that's the case, like you can in other sports where guys are going to last. Of course, the list was inconceivable. Kelly says, Hawkballer did a show on what quarterbacks should be traded straight up for Sam. That was a hard watch. Ooh. We are in that dip of off-season content, Catalyst, where we gotta kind of dig deep on it a little bit. Max, if Sam has another great year like last year and the Hawks win another Super Bowl, people will have to recognize his top 10 quarterback. Yeah, I agree. They should now, but that would finally, with people as slow as they can sometimes be to come around on this stuff, that would finally cement it. Spoon going to get 5 year, $33 million with $6 million guaranteed. Probably something in that neighborhood. Yeah. Probably up around 80 to, I'd say 80 to 100 guaranteed, probably, Nicholas. It's probably the way that they find the place to get the middle ground on it is that, okay, you're not getting as much money, but you're getting more guarantees. Thank you, C-Town. Appreciate you, man. Because sadly, I have college days sleeping routine, so naps are a must sometimes with my age. If I could just get up and bounce back, I'll maybe be all right. But I wake up and I feel like I'm still drowsy for the rest of the day, just kind of dragging. New York team, I think the Seahawks are going to repeat as champions. What do you think? Well, it's going to be my prediction for the season. And I think that we're as well suited to do this as any team in recent memory, New York team. I don't think that we've lost this offseason as significant as some people are trying to say that we lost as far as talent out the door. I think there's a lot of reason to think that there's going to be natural improvement from this team. You've had a solid draft. You've had a solid offseason. You had the third youngest roster winning the Super Bowl last year, and you returned almost everybody on both sides of the ball. I think they're well positioned to do it. And the schedule's set up really nicely. You're not held out where it's like the NFL gave you this awful schedule where you're just set up for failure. I think in a lot of ways the schedule is set up for success, including the week 11 bye, including the minimal amount of 10 a.m. games, including the many different primetime games you're going to be able to play, which we tend to be really good in when we play primetime throughout our history. I think we are, they will be the team that I do pick. And I think you make a very strong case for it. Thank you, Catalyst. I appreciate you, man. You guys are very kind to me, man. Very, very kind to me. Both donations and kind words you guys say on the front of it. I do appreciate it. Catalyst, they'll point to the 2-point conversion play most likely. Definitely doesn't tell the whole story. I mean, the Rams literally fired a special teams coordinator, Blackburn, right after that loss. Yeah, and it's definitely leading the front of this where the luck factor that people want to point to with Seattle, it's sort of like that 2-point play gets to be the lightning rod and begins to the representation of it, the snapshot of what I'm trying to say about the Hawks. This thing is that. Like that was the microcosm of our season, essentially. And like you mentioned, as you look at that Rams game alone, and that's not the story of that Rams game. There's so much more to unpack within that Rams game for why it went in the direction it went. And you got to concentrate on those factors. You got to concentrate on the factors that McVay stopped with his dedication to running the football. You got to concentrate on the fact that, they had a chance to score in the first half, but a mental error by the right guard ends up in the end zone, penalty, touchdown, and wiped off the board. Missed field goal attempt. Part of why, like you mentioned, the special teams coordinator got released along with the return kick in that game. The adjustments Seattle made defensively, where early on in that game and through the 3 quarters, you were really blitzing at a high rate, and you dial back the blitzes, you went with the 4-man fronts, and then you got like 4 straight stops in the 4th quarter when you needed it. These are the contributing factors to winning that game. And likewise, the season has a story behind that too, that is told for why you won last year and why you put together the year you did put together. It's never something that comes down to a simple explanation like luck or a 2-point conversion. And it is strange to see people that are very smart people in how they look at football. These are not dumb people. These are not people that don't understand the sport, but that you do see people that just glom onto this thing that's almost like, I feel like it's almost sort of taken root here because there's just so many saying it that if it's almost one of those things, well, if a lot of people say it, then it must be the truth. Like, no, quite the opposite. This feels almost like a mind virus. It's like Seattle won last year just because of luck. They won because of luck. They won because of luck. They won because it just starts affecting the landscape almost. Nobody has to ever explain it. They just feel it. Just like zombies, brains. It was luck. I want brains. I want to eat brains. It must have been luck. It's like pulling out the string on a freaking one of those old dolls that would have like one little 5-word phrase that they could say, You just feel like you're just pulling on it over and over again. Same thing. And again, I don't get it because there's much more to our season last year than a 2-point play. Thomas, it cracks me up. I already said how many years people have said Seattle will be in last place, only a surprise. I don't expect anything like last year, but I doubt Seattle will be bad. Yeah, I agree. We've been here a lot, haven't we? Still don't know where Milroe's at this point, Nicholas. You're right about that. It's hopefully, and this is where I want to see in this training camp. I want him starting all 3 games, basically. Like Sam can have like 3 snaps. Drew can have like 6, and all the rest need to go to Milroe. I want him to get as much game action as he can, as much to allow that growth to continue to drive forward much more heartily. But then also on top of that, to be able to get more of an assessment of knowing where he really is in that development stretch. Has it come forward? Is he moving in a better place, or is he kind of staying in the same place he was out the gate? Because we know the quarterback position, it can kind of go both ways with that. Robbie Brandon, you're the best following the Hawks on YouTube by far. Thank you, Robbie. We got a lot of great people, man, that do great stuff online here. So I'm really blessed to get to do what I do, and I think our fan base is really in a great place to have the people that do the work they do. I know I say it a lot, but I do believe it. These guys all, one and all, really put in a lot of hard work. They want to do a great job for you guys. Be entertaining, supply some great content on that side of it. And I'm loving what I get to do, man. I feel like we've really found our rhythm here, and it's, I'm having a ball with it. I'm putting together this Kubiak series. I was just cutting it up last night, and I showed my brother. Brother said he's liking what he's seeing on the next episode. So it's just fun to go in so many different directions on this and just have fun with this and just run with it. You guys rock with me every which way I go with it on this channel. And I really appreciate you guys for that, because I test it. I test it out at times. Yeah, Steve Ballmer would be the one that I'd most like. Artie would get me I'm a little nervous with Artie. Yeah, Brian, I think Bo's for 27 too. Milroe show more this year because I have doubts Darnold will play much this summer. I think it'll be the locked Milroe show. I agree. I think the team been smart to do that. New York team, how many yards and touchdowns will Jadarian Price and Zach Charbonnet combine for this year? Whew. We'll go with 15 rushing touchdowns between the two of them. I'll go with 7 for Price. I'll go with 8 for Charbonnet. No, I'll go 8 Price, 7 for Charbonnet. What did DK do? I remember he did well on the bench. DK had a really nice combine. DK did 27 reps, but It's actually better than that because 27 reps is phenomenal for a wide receiver. They'll do typically at best like 15. So DK doing 27 reps is pretty insane. He did it at almost 35-inch long arms. So, when you're benching, if anybody's ever been in a weight room, they know that if you ever got to get those short arm guys, they're just kind of clearing a small amount of space. When you got to go all the way back here and all the way up here and come all the way, and you've got another like 4 inches of space, you got to clear that weight. It's harder to do that much weight. It's more impressive if you get those reps out versus the guy that has 32-inch arms and doing 27 reps. So DK was freakishly strong for a wide receiver. It doesn't get stronger than that. Chris says, it doesn't matter what others think. We won and there's no change in it. They can't deal with reality. Agreed, man. It don't matter. And it kind of encourages me at the end of the day. I do find it funny, like someone else said, but I also think this is part of why, Chris, they're not going to solve us so quick. And that we maybe has more of a chance for this to sustain because they're so busy passing it off to luck. And the Rams are so busy trying to find rule changes that they can implement that they're not actually concentrating on why we were great. Instead, it's all these excuses and all these ancillary reasons that have nothing to do for how we run the team, drive the team, make the team, coach the team, develop the team. All of that goes out the door for these real simplistic sort of explanations. And it does make you wonder if that'll allow us in inroads to once again go and ascend back to greatness again, as much because we're sort of catching people seemingly kind of off guard. I think we should have a weekly poll every show on a random judge. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. I'll try to implement something here going forward on that. Bro says, we did not care.
We did not care.
No, we do not. I read my friend saw Shaheed walking in Bellevue and thanked him for his service. That was nice of him, man. Always like the classic interactions, just telling him thank you, more than getting the picture of the thing. You give him a thank you and, it's much appreciated here. I always feel like that goes far for those guys rather than necessarily asking them for something, just give them a thanks, New York, I have a question. How many receiving yards and touchdowns will JSN and Rashid combine for? Oof. And TDS, how many yards and touchdowns? I'd put JSN at 1,500 yards. I think Shaheed's probably more in about the 700 yards place of things in this offense. That's about what he's going to get. So a little over 2,000 yards receiving between the two of them. And you're probably looking at like 12 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns combined receiving between the two of them. JSN tends to be a pretty good red zone guy. I don't know if Rashid's as much of a red zone kind of receiver. He does more of his work kind of between the 20s and the receiving aspect of things a bit. But yeah, I go 2,200 yards and 13 touchdowns combined. We're doing fine in our little corner of the world. Don't need them approval or acceptance. F them. Amen, man. Well said. Very well said. I know I saw Schefter say it. I hope it's not his fake account. Hopefully not. There's been a lot of rumors too of the Seahawks ownership thing where it just seems like it's kind of a new name every week that we get kind of thrown out there. Thomas Brando, I keep wondering if Rams don't start good. Stafford isn't the same quarterback. Puka's worse diva than he is right now. McDuffie doesn't help defense. Would McVay want out? I mean, I wonder about it as well. And especially when you talk about how often it come to a place of you reach the heights and you're this machine. And then now you've got to kind of like really re-engineer this thing from the ground up in a major way. Not just simply going find the quarterback, kind of like you did with Stafford, where you felt good about where everything was at. And now we just go get Stafford and we just kind of carry out business as norm. I think that there's certainly a place where this Rams team could kind of have a bit of the fall off or a little bit of the fall from grace here. It's got to be, like you mentioned, in this relying on some things kind of falling apart that are really running strong for them right now. But I do wonder a little bit about McVay in the long term once Stafford moves on, especially with him facing Ty Simpson as his next quarterback. I just think that he's a guy that really wants his offense humming as a head coach, and that he understands for his offense to be humming, and he's the kind of quarterback to get that done and the way that Stafford can. And I don't think you're going to get that with Simpson. Simpson's got much more of a close alliance to what Goff could do at the best of the best case scenarios. And that's going to leave McVay wanting more. And so I don't, I think it's a fluid situation and hard to predict a little bit there, but it's got its pitfall there for the upcoming season for how they're rolling into it with how they've set the stage here. Go Hawks, Luke Britt. This is going to be another great year. Shocking the league. Let's get it. Cope, Brando, why can't the Seahawks get the Sorsby guy you bring up a lot, laughing out loud? Well, I think it's as much the Milroe aspect of it that, he's here where Seattle's kind of hitched their cart to the Milroe side of this. And thus, you don't. And this is a little bit of why when we come back to the Milroe pick and unpackaging why in the moment I'm a little bit against the pick in the third round, where I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I like this. Because part of this is the same thing that you implement, Cope, when you take a guy in the top 10. It's not as much as hardlined in that you have this dedication to the guy for a couple of years that has to be there, but there is a dedication there. It's not he's just a guy on the roster now. It's like, no, we got to own up to the development cycle of him. We got to, see if he can be the guy of the future for us and let him grow within that. And so if you look across the league, Cope, you don't tend to see a lot of teams that are going to try to do the two young quarterbacks both kind of fighting it out to see who can be that guy. They just hitch it behind the one guy and they go, let's roll with this for as long as we possibly can until we can determine whether it's a yay or nay. And the second that it's a nay, then we move on to the next. And so that's what's preventing you really from doing it. And you have Drew Lock on a 2-year contract. You could certainly have Lock off, but then if Lock moves off this year and Milroe's not really ready to go, and then you have Sorsby here, who's your backup quarterback coming in for a team that's ready to made to go and maybe repeat Super Bowl wise, a rookie quarterback or a Milroe quarterback that's not quite ready to go at that point. So it's one where I'd love it to be an option. I certainly would be very open to the Seattle Seahawks making that kind of a second round graded supplemental pick where it's like likely to be a late second round pick, but you've already done the deed with Milroe here, unfortunately. And so now you're kind of restricted from being able to get that done, in my opinion. So good question, man. I'd love to do it, but that's part of why you want to be careful on guys you pick even in the third round is that there is some commitment you're putting towards that guy at that point. As far as the buying into his development and the impartiality, he's the future of the position for you. C-Town, I especially love the way McDonald responded to McVay about the 2-point conversion. Something like, we're still talking about that? Mike twisting the knife a little bit. I loved it. Or was I miss Big Kitty when he decides to retire? Without him, we wouldn't have did what we did. Agreed, man. Big part of the puzzle he has been. Kakai and JSN winning the Offensive Player of the Year, but being handed the wrong award. Yeah, media clearly disrespects us. It's both conscious and subconscious a little bit, isn't it, Kakai there? Just a little bit. Thomas Brando, who would the Rams choose if McVay wants out or tells the Rams ownership it's him or Schneid? I believe Schneid and McVay aren't happy with each other. Well, I think if there's one coach who might be able to supersede what the general manager has done there to wield his power over the top of him and thus say, hey, I'm the general manager and get him out, McVay would be that guy. I don't know if it's going in that direction of things, just that he would have the power. If any one coach in the league would have that power to do that, he'd be the dude to do it. I can't see the ownership saying, well, you're out, McVay, we're going to hold on to Schneid. I really would be surprised if that was really the approach there from their standpoint of it. So I think it's more of like he would retire than go to a new team, Thomas. It's like he retires and goes to the booth because he doesn't want to redo a new reset, a new rebuild kind of. And then, who's the coach that they would probably go after at that point? Well, it definitely gets a little bit harder to tell. I certainly think that they would have some attractive options to them because of the fact that, it's LA, it's a prime market. It's an owner that's willing to spend money or a history of winning recently. I think that there would be some guys that would, potentially kind of line up in for that job a bit, but how this goes too. Some of it's like, who's available? Are there really prime candidates available out there for you to go get? kind of feel like this offseason, for instance, Thomas, there wasn't, which is a lot of why you saw the Kubiaks and the LaFleurs hired, is because there isn't as many good head coaching options out there. But I think they figure it out and make it work. Cope says Les Schneid pissed off Jake and McVay on the same night. Only him and McDonald can do that. True enough, man. True enough. I'm with you on Cope. I think that McVay absolutely was not happy with the Simpson pick. And I think that he's smart enough guy to know that this can come back and bite us on the ass, and we got cute, and we're going to get bit on the ass because we got cute. And I would be with McVay on this. I'd be annoyed with my general manager on this. Like, don't do this. Don't do this. Yeah. I'm definitely going to try to reel in Colby, and I'm right now going through my behind enemy lines and reaching out to all these guys and trying to do as much as I can to say, hey, will you be ready to do this during the season? Because a lot of times they can kind of, bail on you. They'll tell you in June, yeah, and then you get to the season and they're like nowhere to be found. But I'm going to try to get them as much nailed down as I can because I really like doing that show. It's really popular doing the behind enemy lines, and I just would like to get it in every Tuesday if we can on it. But some of these guys are evasive, I'll tell you what. They're hard to nail down. Have a good night, Nicholas. Appreciate you, brother. Cobes' top 20 fantasy quarterbacks is more accurate to real life than Mina's list. I think Source being enters the supplemental. Have a good night. Oh, you're coming right back, says Brian. Fro says, I call him McVean. McVean because it looks like his veins are going to pop out when he's yelling. Yeah, I think he's definitely a guy on that. He's on that TRT, bro. You get on that TRT and it starts growing that forehead and the veins start coming off your forehead. You start turning red. Yeah. You might feel like you're 20 again, but your head looks like a tomato. Very veiny. McVay is a very veiny. I agree, Fro. He is a very veiny man. McVay's on a lot of cocaine, dude. Changed my mind. It's cocaine and TRT. It's that lethal combination, man. One part cocaine and one part testosterone. That's the championship concoction right there, herbicide. Little of this, little of that. They have to hire a coach just to herd McVay on the sidelines. The get back guy. Bro's with it. He says, I think he hits the booger sugar as well. Yeah, if I had to pick two coaches that I think are the likely coaches, it's that Oregon coach and McVay. As I'd say, who are the two coaches that come to your mind that you're like, that guy's good chance he's doing some cocaine? Those would be the first two guys I would come to in my mind. And the Oregon coach is like, for sure. Because McVay, I just kind of wonder it. With the Oregon coach, I'm like 99.9% sure. Like that guy's jaws, every time you look on the sideline, he's licking his gums constantly, We're going to win. We're going to win so good. How does he recruit people like that, Have your son come here. We're going to get him on a national championship team. He's going to do so good. So good at Oregon. Maybe it's just they pay so much, Parents are like, F it, they're paying $5 million. Just deal with it. CR, how you doing, man? He says, hello from Germany. Hard working day. Worked yesterday. Just finished cracking some cold ones with the boys, and it's holiday here today. After barbecue, I think I'm finishing leftovers and watching a stream at 4 a.m. Let's go, CR. Let's go. Hopefully it was a nice, easy, chill day. Sounds like a good, nice, chill day once you're off here. Bubba, Brando, what was that Garrett or trade? You were hinting on the syndicate. Come on, Brando. Let your squires know what you're hearing. I can't. It's the unfortunate part is that I've tended to not have any insider information. And now when I sometimes get insider information, I don't get to say it. And that sucks. But I have to protect my sources. And look, it's not happy information, unfortunately, on this one, okay? I don't have some good news for you guys on this one. It has nothing to do with our team per se, but I think that there might be some news coming down the line in the next couple months that we ain't going to necessarily love for the 2026 season. I'll just say that. And I'd love to tell you. But yeah, I'll just say it wasn't information that made me jump up and down and clap. Tyrus, what's Emanwari's official nickname? Is it E-Man, like E-Man? Demon Wari is one we've gone with a little bit, Tyrus. We also have, of course, there's also the He-Man, right? So, this is the one that I like to go to a lot. Let's see if I got it here. Where's my... Come on, I always got my Nick Emanwari He-Man. I always got my Nick Emanwari He-Man ready for you here. I think this is pretty fitting myself. We got a new He-Man movie coming out, by the power of Grayskull, Emanwari. I think it kind of works. We're still workshopping it, man. Grandizer Hawks 12. The thing is, there are way better Finns content creators who are plugged in and not about the drama. Ryder McConville of Ryder McConville Film Breakdowns is great. Yeah, and it's it's kind of like you'll see there are different content creators that go at it in different ways. And I think TD's got kind of his own approach to it. I think that, it's sometimes Grandizer like a little bit what I'll hear with like people on some of the criticism. They'll throw Jake at times with him being, he's homered out on this. And I always say to folks on this, it's having navigated these waters a little bit when it comes to the criticism. And I think, I came down to a place, Grandizer, where I was just like, F it. I'm criticizing. I'm going to get blowback. I'm going to lose subs. People are going to get mad at me. But everyone's got a little bit of a different reaction to it, because you kind of face this thing where you're like, you walk into it and you're like, well, if I'm honest and I'm truthful and then I'm right, people will appreciate that. And part of that's true, where there will be people appreciate it. There'll be people who get mad at you though, when it's not necessarily a positive thing that you're being true and right about, when it's a negative thing, like this quarterback's not a good quarterback or this coach isn't a good coach. And it's just hard it isn't as simple as just being able to, you give your opinion and you do this. And then that's the way there's always these other extra things that come along with the ride a bit there, like those femoral fish that chase the great white sharks around under their underbelly, just clinging to them. You get a little bit of that with every direction you go, and it causes people to have to, react to that in different ways. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I'm glad to hear the Finns got some great content creators out there. In addition, they're doing pretty well with it. And TD's a good guy. He's a real affable dude, and I really like working with Roundtable folks. They've been very kind with us. We're going to be able to get him, in part because of him and because of Dan and what they're doing in the background and building that channel. It's going to allow for us to do like the in-person meetups and those type of things. So, but I get where you're coming from. It's the nice part about this is that you can have in these kind of in this world, you can have all different kinds and how they kind of approach it. And you can find the ones that you most gravitate towards and resonate with. CR says, wish you all could get drunk with the German guy from Countryside at one point. Better day than every holiday you could plan. I'd love that, man. I'm going to get to Germany at some point. I'm going to do a European trip before my life's over at some point. It's a bucket lister. Brian says, B, what do you think of the updated rules regarding... Cut you off there, Brian. Oh, there we go. Regarding the penalties being initiated from New York, not on the field next year. I'm open to it. I think at the end of the day, I want the calls to be right. It's a little bit like baseball and being able to challenge calls. Isn't it much better now that we can challenge these balls and strike calls and we're getting more of them right and less of them wrong? And that should ultimately be the goal, is that how much can we remove of the bad calls on the books? And if this takes steps to getting that done, then I'm all for it. And I do think that there are in the NFL at times still issues with calls and consistency of calls and, having a universal standard you can kind of apply. So I'm open-minded to this, Brian. I am. I'm not as against it as others are. I think that there's, again, as long as the outcome is that you're trying to truly drive towards getting it right and not that it becomes something like every week we still don't know what holding is. Every week we don't know what a catch is, and they're just coming in and adding to that confusion. Well, at that point, I wouldn't be in favor of it, but why not throw it up the flagpole and see? Go Hawks do have a bunch of content creators covering them. Hard to follow all of you. I totally get that, man. I think there's room for everybody too. I mean, the thing is, I'm a big believer in that it's really not a competition for eyeballs as much as it is that the more content creators we have on YouTube that are doing great work, the more eyeballs are naturally driven to YouTube as a real valid source for media and a really valid source for, covering the team and knowing that you're getting the goods in that way. And if you have a lot of guys that are doing it right in that manner, I think that you're accomplishing that where it really is, as I've told Dan Viennes many times on this before, and he's often repeated, and rising tide lifts all boats. And we can rise this tide by us all doing great work. But we've got a lot of hot content creators. We do for sure, Cope, because you guys are such great fans. You guys are so, alive online and there. And I think other fan bases don't show up as much, which is why you have even Patriots that have won endless amount of Super Bowls have a hard time getting content creators going because they get into it and they're like, man, there's not a lot here. There's not a lot of interest here, even though we have this rich history of winning. But in Seattle, we're very connected online in that way. Which is very cool. Dick to Brandon, normally I would be 100% on giving Milroe more snaps, but I wonder if Coach Fleury needs a modest number of Sam snaps in the preseason. I'm open to it, and that's definitely where you have the coaches talk, and if that's where they've got to find. I think I'm not a hardliner on this as much as I am just ideally I'd like to be getting Milroe as many snaps as possible. And I did feel like even last year, there was a little bit too much of giving Drew Lock a little bit too many snaps at times versus just letting Milroe rock and roll. And so I would like to see a little bit more of that if we could, but I'm okay with it. If Fleury needs a little bit of time for assimilation, then that makes sense. The DK shirt off memes were funny, but annoying after a while. Yes. It's easy to cheat on the bench press too. It is. Those guys love to put their legs in the ground and then arch the back up. And they sometimes let him get away with it. You're with me on that, Herbicide? 800 yards sounds about right. LeBon, hello, B. What's the probabilities Hawks rank first in all three categories this season? Well, I think it's special teams and defense are very easy to believe that you can get that done. It becomes offense, right? And that's the offense might have been the most impressive thing about being ranked as high as it was last year. I don't think it's going to be ranked top 3, but even if the offense is ranked top 7, top 5 from an efficiency standpoint, you're going to be probably back in the Super Bowl again if it can attain that. So you'll have it with the defense and the special teams, but offense will be a bit harder to predict on that one for sure. It'll be a good offense, but will be one of the best in the sport offenses. One of the most efficient sports in the offense. Got a chance. Turn all the starters. I ain't saying there's no possibility of it, but that'd be the one hard one to predict of those three. Dick to Brandon here in 7 touchdowns for Sharps is the best comment I've heard this offseason. Love it. Go Hawks. Fingers crossed, though. I think he's going to make way, and he's a hard worker by all accounts, like John Schneider said, that this guy will grind and get after it, and that's oftentimes the thing that can help these guys get back off these injuries a little bit quicker if they're really, truly wired that way. Not just that they say that they're going to do it, but that this is how this guy is built. So I think he gets onto the field sooner than later. I think maybe you have a couple games to the start of the year that he doesn't play, but he's out there sooner than later, and I think part of this is that the Seahawks approach the running back position this offseason speaks to that. We'll see, though. Cope, yeah, man. JSN, Shaheed, and Horton on the field at once. That will be an interesting combination when you get a chance to see it. Because, boy, you're really throwing some speed at the defense at that point in a major, major way. And hopefully probably driving some mismatches across the board within it. 11 personnel's got a chance to be very interesting this year with some of the three receiver sets you'll be able to trot out there. Yeah, didn't get any of that last year at all, right, Cope? Torrey went out. Shaheed came in. You didn't get him on the field at any one time at the same time. True enough. Yeah, Cope, I'm with you. I mentioned Goff. I'm trying not to seem like I'm hating on Simpson too much, to your point. He said, I don't see Simpson reaching Lions Goff level, but I didn't watch much Simpson. No, you're on it. I more just speak to like you're getting a talent that's less than what you're having in Stafford, and now you're having to overcome that talent. And if you couldn't do that with Goff, who to your point was probably a better player, how are you going to do it with Simpson, who's a lesser player? Like Simpson's got more mobility, but he doesn't have the arm strength. Just doesn't have the arm talent and doesn't have the size of Goff. So I think you're on it. I'd agree with you on that. J. Melfer, have an idea. Show someone like Sundell at the start of the year and compare how he did at the end of the year. Start of the year, show a progress on players video. That's a good idea, man. Try doing that a little bit with some of these off-season videos as I can on the live shows. But I'll see if maybe I can kind of come up with something like that could work. Sometimes the uploads don't do as well channel-wise on that stuff a bit. Like live streams tend to be where everything's kind of at a little bit there, but I'm open to it. It's a good idea, man. Start of the year and compare it to how I did at the end of the year. I'll see if I can come up with something. Very, very veiny. Adam Gase. Yeah, that's another one. Gase got literally popped for doing coke. So that's the one where you don't have to guess. Like literally players are outing him now for having done the cocaine. Brandon looked like him. Banker Brando, if McVay was an assistant coach for the Giants in the 80s, he would have been besties with LT. You know, Banker. You know, because he knows LT can got the good stuff. He's got that Hall of Fame stuff. That Hall of Fame purity. Hope I'm not hungry for big trades anyway. I'm ready to see how this group performs. Yeah, I'm kind of with you too. I feel like you've kind of put the work in, and I'm open to a trade. I think that maybe be kind of nice on this Cope would be having the opportunity to kind of let this thing play out a little bit and get up to that trade deadline to see what you really truly need at that point. It's not about the sale. Not about the sale. Demon Warrior is pretty good. Demon Warrior, that's another nice one, LeBon. Which ice cream is better, Tillamook or Mpok? I'd probably go Tillamook. I kind of like Tillamook, actually, to be honest with you. Cope says, wasn't he already ranked really high among safeties as a rookie? Not sure if it was PFF or something else. Yes, he was. The hard part becomes is that I think that they're trying to rank him a bit as a safety. And of course, you know, he's really not playing safety. So that's where I think they didn't have him under, I don't think they had him under necessarily. No, they did have him under corner. My bad. Well, that's not what I was looking for. Where do they got him listed at here? What am I missing? There we go. So yeah, they did have him listed at safety. I thought I was going to say, I was like, they didn't have him listed as a safety, did they? So yeah, they had a safety listed, and he would have been your 18th highest rated safety in the sport last year. So just ahead of Tayakata at 19 and just behind Antoine Winfield Jr. at 17. But 74.4 was his grade on the year for Nicky Manwari. And so if you really looked at that versus other corners in the sport, that would have ranked him about 17th in the sport for cornerbacks. If we were trying to put that rating where he was really at as a slot corner, right? That's where he was at most of the time. Yeah, you're with me. Tillamook's the way on that one. E-Man Warrior. That's a pretty good one. I don't know. That's got a little bit of phonetic catch to it. Still dreaming. Hey there. How are you there, brother man? What a nice surprise. Good to see you still dreaming. I'm doing great, brother. Just ripping and roaring through this off season, man. Things going fast. CRB, as every year, I want to remind you the roster builder from the German Seahawks. It's an easy and cool way to build your 53-man roster. I got to put that down on my notes, man, because we're going to be doing a 53-man roster prediction. So I know I probably have it somewhere. I'll look that up though. CR for sure. When I'm putting together the 53-man roster projection, that'll come in helpful. Brian says if Sharps manages 7 touchdowns after missing perhaps the first 5 to 6 games, that'll be a feat. Yeah. Part of it too, it becomes the vulture process, right? Remember the old fantasy game reference to the running back that comes in and vultures the touchdown. And remember that was the big thing that Kenneth Walker was kind of bitching and moaning about this offseason, was that Charbonnet was coming in last year and vulturing some of his touchdowns. So I am anticipating that once he comes back, that he will be more of that hammer guy down by the goal line. And it's as much as that he'll just get the opportunities more than he's busting off 25-yard runs for a TD, you know? Whether which city is better, Vancouver, Victoria, British Columbia, Seattle, or Portland? I mean, I would take Seattle myself. I was not super impressed by Vancouver when I visited. I think Victoria's a nice little enclave certainly it's got a little special place in itself too. Not a big Portland guy. It's 7:43 p.m. in the Pacific Northwest right now. You see Jeff Bezos is the favorite to buy the Seahawks, 20% chance. Ooh, interesting. All right. Just kind of ready for the sale to happen at this point. So many names have been bandied about. Brand has Hawks does, I believe it was 49ers O-line coach Chris Forrester who got busted using coke when he was with the Finns in 2017, drum roll, under Adam Gase. There was a former player that came out this offseason and literally outed Gase for he walked in on Gase snorting in his office off his desk. And this makes the googly eyes of Gase make that much more sense, right? You go watch, him at a presser and this is Gase. We're going to go out. We're going to do a lot. It's getting ready to cook things up right now. Me and Gino and Sam Darnold's going to be awesome. Sam's going to be really good here with what we're doing. We're going to attack. We're going to attack. We're going to attack so well. Cobo and Kenneth Walker in fantasy was infuriating week to week. It's that vulture factor, man. It makes it tough on these backfields that have this like this, where you have a guy does all the work in between the 20s, and then here comes the guy in there, just go get the tutty. And he's a good, short yardage back. You do hear Victoria. I haven't actually been to Victoria, so that's one I've got to say on sight unseen. But everybody I've heard that's gone to Victoria sings its praises. That's for sure. HSG Portland sucks. I should know. Live 20 minutes away. I've gone through the town a couple times. I've hung out a little bit here and there. You think Seattle's dreary. I feel like Portland's even more dreary. It feels even more fog based. It feels like it's just enclosed in a bit of darkness almost. Portland sucks ass. Seattle right behind, but all 4 of those cities have the same homeless and drug problem. It's an issue, man. Love to see some of that stuff get cleaned up, because the city going to Seattle, it's been a little bit better in downtown Seattle the last couple times I've gone there. They feel like they've started to make some progress with some of this stuff, but it's an issue. CR says, Cope, I had Charbonnet. I loved every minute. One man's pain's another man's pleasure, CR. Portland, definitely not. Victoria's nice visit. Vancouver and Seattle were great back in the 90s. They have their moments now. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it. Went to university there. It's a great little spot. Does seem kind of, Victoria seems like it is kind of a cool little area up there. Chad, any recommendations for the U.S. right now? P.S. It's effing expensive for me, and I won't like those woke towns like San Francisco, etc. Yeah. I mean, San Diego, where I live, is a pretty nice place, CR. Come down here and go get a beer or something out here. I always recommend San Diego for sure. It's a great little spot down Southern California. But no, the north ain't bad. Get up into Montana, go see some of the woods up there, some of the national parks they got up there aren't bad. You see Yellowstone or something. Fortunately, Vancouver's becoming Portland now. I went up when I was in my early 20s to Portland many, many years ago, and I found it a little dingy, the town, you know, a little extra dirty. And that was years ago. It's probably gotten even worse now. 7 hours downtown yesterday. Great time. Tons of people. Let's go. Idaho is sneaky nice, especially Idaho up in the north, man. In Spokane, when you ever go out there to the Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene area, Coeur d'Alene is like a little gem that's like kind of hidden and unknown, but just amazing little spot they've got there. And it's kind of growing up there in northern Idaho. They've got a couple little towns that are really getting big. Yeah, it's a sneaky little nice spot out there. It's not bad at all. Tell you that. Not too shabby at all. All right, guys. Well, we're an hour 24 in the books, or 2 hours 40 in the book here. Let's get the last couple questions on in. If you got the last couple things you want to talk about or discuss today, let's get them on in the chat. We're going to be looking at discussing a little bit on John Schneider on Wednesday. So that'll be the next show that we're going to be coming up for. I want to make my case to you guys that John Schneider is absolutely a Hall of Famer at this point. He is the best general manager in the sport at this point. And also just to, again, what I want to do with this show on Wednesday is really dive into these individual decisions that have been made. And it's two different camps here. It's both the decisions that John has tangibly made and the things that he's actually done. And it's also been those things that he could have done, been those things that he was associated with maybe possibly doing that he was able to avoid. It is both of those things that make you the great general manager, both the successes and the failures you avoid that build your greatness up. And I'm going to make the case here on Wednesday when we talk about John that he's really done both of these things at a high level the last couple of years. It's not simply drafting, it's the avoiding this pitfall, avoiding that pratfall, not making the same mistake that every other organization in this realm is making to this degree. So we're going to be getting into that on Wednesday. It is a little bit of that quiet time here where we're going to be still coming at you every couple of days here on the show. I know I owe you guys a call-in show for the members and patrons of the channel as well. I will get that notification out to you this week. We're going to definitely get that done this week for sure. Probably, I guess, Thursday is what we'll be maybe looking for on that. We've got, I believe, as well, the roundtable tomorrow on Tuesday. So it is the off season, but the train just keeps on a motoring. It keeps on a going here at the Hawks Nest. I really, really thank you guys for rocking in here with me today. And another great show with you guys, just hanging out and chopping it up. I can tell you guys are stoked for the season, which is great to see. Great to see. Industry, lots of celebs in Idaho with homes there. It's a good place because it's like it's clean out there. There's actually, it's not, you're in the middle of the sticks where there's nothing around you. There's stuff around you. And then you can actually still go get property at a decent price. You know, you get a home with a couple acres and you're not paying completely through the nose for it. And then Idaho, of course, with some of their tax stuff there is pretty advantageous. So it's, yeah, you get a lot of those people in California sell their home for $1 million, go buy one for a couple $100,000 up there in Northern California and then stash the rest of the money away. It's kind of the move up there. Idaho's lovely. Most of the people, not so much. It's a little, yeah, there can be some, it can depend on the town a little bit there, Brian. Northern Idaho doesn't necessarily have the greatest of reputations in certain respects. To that point. Brian says the Hawks Nest, Northern Idaho is where I want to move to. Already done Southern Idaho. I want to be among the conifers and mountains and those awesome lakes. Yeah, it's got so much you can check out there. The landscapes differs and changes and forest and mountains and it's just got a lot to it. You got the seasons there in the summertime. There's no more beautiful place than beyond the lake, Coeur d'Alene out there. There's a lot to do. Great place to eat. Great places to eat there. I definitely am. I'd be lying if I didn't say that there's a part of me that's wonders long-term about as I will eventually do end up kind of settling down fully into a final resting place. If not, that maybe a Northern Idaho might be a spot that I look to lock in on as well. You know, it's understandable. There's a lot of good stuff to it. And there's a lot of places in the country where there's so many little negatives you always have to kind of pull apart from the good, where it's like, oh, the taxes, oh, the cost of living, oh, it's so packed. You know, Soil. So speaking of Mr. Inbetween, have you ever watched the show on Hulu? So Underrated, amazing show. Yeah, I was kind of doing a little bit of a subtle, not because Bradford's anything like the main character on that show, Soil, but it was a little bit of a subtle wink to the show, Mr. Inbetween. Yeah, I have been able to check it out. It's kind of interesting where you have this guy who's really not done anything, and he just had this sort of project that was his dream project to kind of put together, and he put it together right, and he did a great job with it, and he got in and he got out, and just a great show. It's kind of interesting how he did it that way, you know what I mean? But really well done. Yeah, it's got a great. I love the finish too, man. The finish and the literal closing scene of the show after what you've gone through with it, just very cool, very cool. A lot of good shows. I highly recommend the Mr. Inbetween. CRB, thanks for the stream and the coverage. Came here late today, but appreciate it. Now at 5 a.m., I'm not sure if I'm going to sleep or getting up is the better option. You're a man. You're a man, Mr. Inbetween right now, CR. Hey, thanks for riding with me today, man. Get some water now. Got to hydrate there. You know what I mean? Got to hydrate. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you. Industry Worth. Good night. Is there any Hawk stream following this, or today a quiet day? I think it's a pretty quiet day right now. Most guys right now, you're kind of catching your breath out on the content creation world. You know, it's in football, it's a pretty much a 365 deal, but it is right at the time here now, late May, especially with the holiday weekend here through pretty much a lot of June. It gets really quiet. So you'll see a lot of probably content creators go kind of catching their breath, doing their vacations right now. Just because as much of the interest, especially in Seattle, everybody's out there enjoying the weather, understandably so. Brian says, you want cheap acreage in a house? Look at Kentucky. Yeah, they definitely have some good stuff out there too. I could just never wrap my head around living in the South for some reason. I'm just too much of a West Coast boy, I think, Brian. I just do that. There's Northern Idaho, and then there's the people. Yeah. You can't have everything, man. You can have the house, you can property, the beautiful environment, the nice, decent weather. Don't get it all, though. There's always some sacrifice to be made. So you are on the way out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and say bye to B. And don't you ever forget, go Hawks. Thank you for that reminder. Please do hit that like button. Please do get subbed on up. Ask it a lot, I know, but it's a big helping hand to this channel. It helps us really drive forward, and we're on that road now to 30,000. Love to keep making progress towards it like we are. I like pots, so Idaho, Kentucky, no go. That's the nice part about Northern Idaho, Herbicide. You just bounce right over to the Washington side, and you're good to go. Easy peasy. Brian, thanks, Brian. I'll say it now in case somehow you go another 2 hours. Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you, man. Bubba Brando, what was the Boz experience like? I'm only 29. You were an organization at that time that was going really well, and things were starting to come together for you, and you felt like Chuck Knox was really starting to institute what he wanted to get done, and his team was firmly in place, and you had talent, and now you're bringing on a guy that could seemingly be the best inside linebacker in the entire sport on top of your team. And you brought this guy in on top of what he was as a player, as also being, one of those players at the time that was a true star personality coming out of college, which there had not been a lot of at that time in the NFL. You made your stardom once you proved your bones in the NFL as a player. Yet Bosworth was such a striking figure on the college scene that he had become that guy. And it also won the Heisman Trophy as a defensive player, which is pretty incredible. So he was a guy that came to you with this hype in what you were doing, and he was a supplemental pick. So you didn't take him in the draft. So you were able to grab him in kind of in an unusual way. And he was a guy through the first year, 2 years that he was here, where you saw that flash and that player of that talent and what that could be, and some games where he was able to put it together. Unfortunately, the steroids and the problems of the steroids at that time really hit him hard, because he was a guy that used them quite a bit. And something that the steroids can do to you is they can weaken down your ligaments. Your muscles can take it, but your ligaments don't get stronger from steroids. And so that you see a lot of these guys with the steroid stuff that do get the ligament pops, in my opinion, that come from that at times, or issues with ligaments from it. So unfortunately, he was just a little bit tapped out as a player by the time he got to you. Both of his shoulders were basically shot. It's not the only linebacker that this has actually happened to, but those guys that are in a high collision experience in that fashion. But as far as just saying the most purely raw, talented inside off-ball linebacker that we've had in Seahawks history, because Aaron Curry was that, but he was a will. So we're talking a middle linebacker, whereas Curry was a will outside linebacker type. Or this best pure talent, I think you could make an argument that he was the best pure talent that you ever have had. Just, note for note, player for player. Wagner, the better player. Wagner, the amazing career Hall of Famer. But I'm talking just pure talent level alone. CR says, love the small streams of chat and B feels intimate like one big Hawk family. You better believe we are, man. That's the community we got here. And it's the thing I'm most proud about with this channel above all else. And it's in second place, isn't even close. I mean, second place is that I get to do my dream every day, but that we've got this community here is, I think, second to none. And it's everything to do with you guys and the people that come in here and make up this community. Very, very blessed to have it. Side says, yeah, you get caught on the Idaho side, that's 30 days in jail. That's true. You got to be careful if you're over there. You got to be careful. All rookie team his first year. Yeah, he was really legitimately good out the gate. Sometimes it's a little bit like the Jamal Adams thing, where Jamal didn't take necessarily steroids, but just the body can sometimes break down on you really fast. So in the NFL, it's that way at times where it's miserable in the respect that it's like it just can come out of nowhere. You're going along fine, you're doing great, and then just the body just completely starts to just separates almost. Fro says, I lost it for Boz when Bo Jackson ran over him. I know Bo ran over everyone, but that solidified the hype for me. It was impressive play, man. It was definitely an impressive play by Bo on that, and it was a bad look on to Boz at that time with it. But Bo was also just that dude. I mean, Bo is one of those, as I call it, one of those timeless talents. And in the 80s, I think sometimes what we do with this at times is that we have the athletes are always better. The athletes are always better. The athletes continue to get better. This athlete in this generation is always better than the prior athletes. I think there are those athletes that almost can kind of in any generation they could have played. And in the 80s, I've often said, I think it's, Michael Jordan. I think Barry Sanders. And I tend to put Bo Jackson in that realm as well, as that Bo Jackson at the running back position could have played in any era. The guy was legitimately 235 pounds running a 4.2 40. Like he was as freak show of freak shows as you get at the running back position, talent wise. But that lives with Boz forever. Bosworth not even close to Wagner. Not in production. 61 Wolves. Not in production, right? Not in like what they did as a player in the NFL. But as far as the talent goes for his era and the type of talent he was in Bosworth and the type of talent, I mean, there's a reason that, for instance, Wagner lasted into the second round, right? I'm not trying to take any shots at Wagner in any way, shape, or form on this. It's not about what they did as a pro. It's specifically, if you just take a look at the guys coming out of college and what they are as a player and what they're projected. And as Brian said above on this with Bosworth, how many teams would have been falling all over themselves to take him if you didn't take him? You got him in the supplemental draft because you hadn't been good the prior year, so you had the pecking order to be able to grab him at that time. So it's not speaking to Wagner not being a Hall of Famer. It's not speaking to Wagner being a top 3 or 4 all-time player as an inside off-ball linebacker. It's just speaking to talent. And oftentimes the productivity you get as a player is, yes, somewhat derived from your talent and being a difference maker in that part of it. Some of it's how hard of a worker, how much do you want it? Do you want to ascend to greatness? Are you willing to sacrifice all that takes to get there to be that, that stuff ends up being a part of that too. We're probably done for agents. We might grab one more edge. There's still a couple guys you got. Let's remember 2C Town. We got a lot of money still to spend. HG, who you got planned for behind enemy lines for week 1? It's going to have to be kind of Colby or bust because there's not a lot of Patriot content creators. So I will be reaching out to him to try to nail all of the behind enemy lines guys down before the season this year. But that will be the one I'm going to try to nail. Granted, there still might have a Bosworth rookie card, a few of them. I really loved the late Seahawks squads of the 80s. They were fun, man. They were fun. And not just Bosworth a part of that, but Craig Largent, Warner still rolling, John L. Williams at fullback and what he brought and how cool, how much fun was he? Eugene Robinson and back there being the pick show that he was. Yeah, you had some fun guys. You remember Jackson was ridiculous, played Tecmo Bowl, not that far off. It was. He was just, and remember, this is a guy that was playing baseball. He was a Heisman Trophy winner at Auburn, played baseball instead, came in mid-year to the Raiders as a running back, no training camp, having just played baseball, walked onto the field and absolutely dominated. Like it was, he was as freaking athlete as you can kind of get. And I wouldn't say that there's like 10 of these guys in the 80s, or 10 of these guys in the 90s, but there are those select guys every decade where you're like, that athlete, what he was, that could work in kind of any era. Chris Boz came out of college aged with the injuries and steroids used to recover. College doctors did him no favors. No, they didn't. And that was a little bit of the Wild West time for steroids because steroids were very much a part of the 80s football. You have guys like Lyle Alzado talk about it, and you just get the impression that, we've got these kind of like de jure steroid stuff now and the Toradols and all of this stuff that's like been very much advanced. And that like back then they were literally like using the same stuff that they probably gave to horses. So it was not you're just, and probably over abusing it. And you know what I mean? Just not having any, not that I think it's good to ever use it, but that there certainly was just no controls at all put on that. Have a good one, CR, man. Hope sleep well, brother. Sleep well. I met Boz at Seattle Center after his career, much smaller, nice guy though. He seems like a good guy. Grandizer Hawks Nest. Oh, speaking of Bosworth, any chance to get him in for an interview? If not him, Dave Wyman, who was his teammate. As you know, Wyman covers Seattle sports. I'll try. I've had a hard time trying to wrangle in people for interviews, man, Grandizer. So it's been just lack of response can sometimes be a little bit of what I run into, but I'm open to having him on for sure. Boz was what Brian Urlacher was supposed to become. Yeah, kind of. The new Dick Butkus. I'd offer as kind of a little bit of his outlook of what he's supposed to be too. The Bo Jackson 30 for 30 is one of my favorites. They did a great job on that one, man. I read his book back in the day. Just kind of the athlete he was. Very, very interesting athlete and supremely talented. I met Steve Largent in 1980, gave me an autographed 8x10 photo. Oh, that's Steve, I know. That's my Largent. That is my Largent. All right, let's wrap her up on that note. Make sure I got all the donos in. We did get all the donos in. Again, Thomas Cox, Dogzilla, Randall McDaniel, John Naylor, Industry Work, Banker Elpriest. Appreciate all of you guys for all of the very kind donations today, as you guys are just amazing as ever. So we got Tuesday Roundtable. Wednesday, we'll be doing a show on John. Thursday, we'll be doing the call-in show for members and patrons of the channel. I'm overdoing getting that done with you guys. So that's coming down the line here over the next couple days here on the side of it. I'm hard at work on the Kubiak video. In fact, right after the show tonight, I'll be getting back over there and working on some of the edits that I've got going on that side of it. So if you're wondering about the Kubiak thing, I am hard at work at it. I'm going to try to get just both episodes, the last couple episodes, shot, filmed, put in the can, and have them to where I can kind of release them to you guys, once every day or two, once I can kind of just fully get them done here as we get in the end of this month at the beginning of June. So be on the lookout for that. I'll try to get that over to you as I can. HHGB, did Bo Jackson get necrosis or something? No, he ran a run and he was busted a big run as he was wont to do. And a Cincinnati Bengal player got his leg wrapped around and got him. And Bo was such a big beast that you're grabbing him and you're just kind of holding on for dear life until the cavalry can arrive. And he's on his leg and he's kind of pulling on his leg and Bo's trying to explosively tear out of it. It's almost kind of like Bo injured himself because his explosiveness to rip out of tackles, the guy had too good of a grip and it basically popped out his hip in a way. And it just messed up the whole hip and how his leg fit into that hip. at that time, and it was just never the same. It was all just, it got, you can go back and look it up. It's kind of the Bengals, Raiders, Bo Jackson injury, and just kind of innocuous looking, but you can kind of see, the more you watch it, you can kind of see the guy really got a grip of his one leg and he's kind of pulling and Bo's trying to yank it and just bop, bop, bop. Still waiting for the Hawks Nest with Brandon on 30 for 30. Let's go someday. Joseph says, how should we at you when we comment on player profiles? At Seahawks Nestor on Twitter is where you can find me with that, Joseph. So if you do the at Seahawks Nestor on Twitter, or X, I should start calling it X, I guess. Stop dead naming, Brandon. Stop dead naming. So yeah, put at Seahawks Nestor is where you can find me up on Twitter. Just post me on in there, and I try to keep an eye on it. I'm not active on Twitter, but I do look for if anybody's got me on the mentions, they want me to respond to anything, I'll try to take a look at it on that. Bro, great show, Brandon. Thank you again for all you do. Thank you for watching, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you on that front. Thanks for rocking us. Seahawks. Let's get a little Hawk chant in. Let's get a little Hawk chant. Finishes up right. Oh. Had to be against Denver? Nope. It was the Cincinnati Bengal game when it went down. Yeah, Bo was just insane. 4 carries, 214 yards, and 3 touchdowns one game. That's a Bo game right there. Jacob Green was a hell of a player, man. Probably our best pass rusher all time, probably. Definitely doesn't get remembered enough by Hawk fans. Good player. Hell of a player. Well, Valdez, hey, Brandon, if you had to pick a position group to go cheap on and still put yourself in position to win a Super Bowl, what would it be, assuming you're paying the quarterback top 10 money? It's a great question. I would go with this as my pecking order on the 3 stack on this, Will, and it would go by devalued, sort of by the most devalued to then the lesser devalued, right? But still the most devalued of all the positional groups. I would start with safety. I would then go to off-ball linebacker, both Will and Mike. And then I would go to running back. And this would be specifically, Will, to money and what you're paying them out. Not to draft capital. Draft capital and what you're willing to put on position, draft capital is much different than what I'm willing to pay for what is, kind of devalued positions. But I think that those positions have been devalued for a reason. I think that they're devalued rightly. And I think that that's where you've got to take advantage of where those positions are at so you can maximize other positions that are harder to find the great players. And that when you do find those great players, that they have more of the impact on the game itself than some of these other positions because of that. X is Twitter, damn it. I know. I don't like the name change stuff. I do the same thing with artists when they're like, no, my name's now this. Like, no, I'm not playing this game with you. Your name is whatever I want it to be. Smokey, the Boz was a badass for real. I watched his whole career in college and a few great moments he had in the pros. If not for injuries, he would have been a Hall of Famer for sure. Exactly, man. He was just that type of talent. And it might seem like I'm shading Bobby on this, throwing this to Boz, but it's just is what it is. And again, the guy won the Heisman as a defensive player. How rare do we see that in college football? How hard is that to get done? And it just speaks to what kind of impactful player he was if he had been able to keep his health. And that's that nature of football at times, is that it can go this fast for guys where you can be that good, considered to be that much of a difference maker. I mean, some of this happened with Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney's number 1C. Everybody talks about Clowney as well. He never was able to ascend to the number 1 overall guy that everyone thought he could be, and he still had a great career, of course. He's been an awesome pro. But Clowney, tore up his leg, and I talked to Clowney personally on this and confirmed this. He tore his leg up on a sprinkler on the Texans field in his rookie year in training camp. And never was the same from it. Not in full. Yeah, mostly recovered, but not quite ever the same. And it's like, that's football for you, Tyler Lockett told us this a couple of years ago. I thought it was really a brutal thing that Tyler told us, where he's like, yeah, I've never been able to get back all of my speed from the injury. Having a great, amazing career, was able to overcome it. Then you start thinking about those guys that if they had been able to avoid that thing and what they could have been. Football is so much of a what if game. Yeah, Joseph, I would love to get the interviews, man. I spent some of this offseason already reaching out to agents for the team of players. Like I had Byron Murphy's agent reach back to me and be like, yeah, he's just out here on this, and then we'll reach back to you when he comes back. And I'm going to try to double back around to him and see if I can pull him into the fold. But it gets tough, man. These guys are very evasive, and they're not big on giving interviews, and and not just players, but people that cover it in general. It's been kind of tough to track some of these guys down. I wish I could get more for you guys on the channel as far as some of the collabs, but people are I think some of it too is that people go to the Instagram, and I'm not doing anything on Instagram. So they're like, who's this guy? Right. So I probably got to start building up the Instagram a little bit more so it looks a little more legitimate, but yeah, it's been a thing. Megan, you caught us right at the end, sweetheart. It's good to see you in the house though. Hope you're doing good. Caught us just right at the end. Bubba says if you ask Carroll, he'd say O-line. He probably would. He probably would. Long live Prince. Oh, wait. Formerly known. Forbes at my fave. I grew up in Alaska, so Alaska Thunderbuck, a.k.a. ATF. Let's go. Go, Tyler Lockett, pre-leg injury, had underrated speed. It's amazing he was so fast even after it. It was, yeah. Agreed. I mean, you see what he used to do on the kick returns, for instance. And I mean, before leg injury, maybe the most dynamic kick returner in the game. And even with all the medical advances we've made, there are some of these injuries that can still happen that you can't ever quite come back from. Especially if you have a multitude of them. Shoot, wanted to go to sleep as soon as I closed my eyes, like doing donuts. Hang in there. Megan says, been outlining another 12 chapters of the book. Sorry, B, didn't have YouTube on. No worries, Megan. Hope the book's going well. I have to check out a little bit of, you got to send off some of what you got to me. Let me give it a read when you get it all finished up. But sorry, we're just kind of finishing up right now and signing off just at the moment. But we'll be back again on Wednesday. How you doing, Corey? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Florida Sydney Ryder, been writing since. Let's go. Let's go. Got you motivated. Got you motivated. Well, sorry, we're wrapping up just right at this moment, but we're just finishing on up here. So we will call a button on that. Another great show with you guys today. And sorry, we caught a couple of you folks, Corey and Megan, a little bit later in the thing, but we will be back here on Wednesday. Got the Tuesday roundtable kicking back up, and maybe the off season, folks, but we do not slow down here at the Hawk's Nest. So we are ripping and roaring, and we will be keeping firing going here over the next couple of days. As you can out the door again, please do hit that like button, maybe sub on up if you get a chance. It is much appreciated as well. Be sure to use that code on Prize Picks, HMA, using my code to the fullest out here and help us take advantage. We put a $5 lineup down there, get you $50 back. Big shout out here to Prize Picks, the #1 sports app that's running the game today. Thank you guys for using the code as you are. Of course, terms and conditions do apply, but get on basketball, get on baseball, hell, get on the seasonal picks, as I've already been on this with Jadarian Price and Jackson Smith. I think there's some really good picks in there to go take advantage of. Go and get that taken advantage of today. But thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. Thank you guys for utilizing that code, as you guys have. And we will be back soon. CR, you hanging out there, get some water, man. Maybe a couple of push-ups, a little bit of some jumping jacks, get the blood pumping through there. Get you back to the other side of it. Member stream. I've been behind on getting the member stream out, Megan. Thursday for sure. This week we'll get 5:00 a member stream, and I will try to get that out today if I can. If not tonight, I will get it out to you guys first thing tomorrow. But I have admittedly been a little bit behind on that. Please do a video on just Don McDonald. Great suggestion, man. I'll see if we can get a little bit of a video, maybe concentrating on that. I did try to do a little bit of one recently on that C-Town where we did the year 2 trends under Mike McDonald, and kind of looked at what, how his defense evolved last year and some of the changes that took place and some of what they were doing. But I'll see if I can find a different kind of another angle at it, with him and kind of a little bit of a discussion point on McDonald. I think that's a great suggestion for sure. We'll see you on Thursday with that, Megan. And we'll get that up for sure. If again, not tonight, I'll get it up for sure on tomorrow. I hope everybody out there has a great holiday weekend. Thank you again for just another awesome show. Best community that we got out here on the board here on YouTube by far, in my opinion. You guys are just on it every time, coming in, know what time it is. Just having some great football discussion, being able to bounce ideas off of each other and just kind of turn this team over. And what hopefully will be, again, another very successful year here for your Seattle Seahawks. We'll just have to see. Good news is we're getting close here now. We are almost just a month away here from training camp, getting very, very close. I'm going to be in Seattle here for the training camp days. So if you're in there going to training camp, be on the lookout for me there. So I'm going to try to be on get at least 3 practices in if I can, maybe a little bit more. We're going to see what we can do on that. I thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all of your support and all your kind of words on the channel in that way. We'll be back here in less than 48 hours here with the Roundtable. Got Kubiak in the works as well, so I'll get that update to you guys as well. But until that time, I shouldn't have to remind you, you got a team about ready to potentially go back to back, back to back. Everyone's saying they can't do it. Everyone's saying it's the Rams, they're going to get there. But I'm telling you, they got more than a chance. As good a chance as any recent Super Bowl winner with all they are returning back. With a coach like this, with a front office like this, you should be excited. You should be hyped up for this team to go out there and do great things once again. But just in case you're not, allow me, if I may, to remind you, don't you ever forget. Don't you dare. Go Hawks.